In this discussion, we will review the manhwa entitled Extreme God. This manhwa tells the story of a very strong young man who comes from the continent of Shiwu, where at a young age our main character managed to break through to the highest realm level. However, all of the main character's life changes after the main character dies ridiculously and is born in the body of a small child who has a weak physique. However, because of his fear, the main character slowly regained his strength for revenge. Then how is the continuation of the story? Let's just start the storyline. This manhwa opens by showing the highest and largest continent in this manhwa. The continent is called Shenwu, and everyone who resides there is someone who has the supreme realm. And the continent's weakest upgrade alone could crush rocks. And the most terrible was the Wu Emperor, who could reverse a single river flow. Within this continent, there are 9 martial arts profound realms, starting from Wu-Tu, Wu-Ji, Wu-Shi, Wu-Ling, Wu-Wang, Wu-Sheng, Wu-Zhen, Wu-Shen, and the highest Emperor Wu. Therefore, every young girl in the Shenwu continent regarded becoming a warrior as her biggest dream in life. And among his many disciples, there was one of the strongest youths on the continent named Ling Feng. On this continent, Ling Feng was known as a talent and a genius, considering that even at the age of 30 he managed to reach the Wu realm. Dan became the first young man to pass through the realm in the history of the Shenwu continent. The panels then change to show Ling Feng, who always sneaks into the library to read all the exercise books. But in these few weeks, Ling Feng felt bored because the workbooks here were useless. Boredom mentioned, suddenly Ling Feng saw that there was a sake that had been sealed for many years. Curious about the taste, Ling Feng drank all of it. And surprisingly, the effect of the sake made his body burn and his vision was dark. And it turned out that the sake was stale, which made him poisoned, which ended in death. However, Ling Feng did not die. Instead, he was reborn into the form of a small child who had a weak physique and was often sickly. In this second life, the fate of Ling Feng was really bad, because all the strength he had obtained before disappeared. Especially with a body like this, it was difficult to adapt. What's more, the elders said that Ling Feng couldn't practice martial arts. If he could, the meridians could destroy his body. As a result, with that, Ling Feng could not become a cultivator. However, even though second life of Ling Feng was like this, he was always cared for by his older sister named Ling Qing. This is where in his daily life Ling Qing is always bullied by other children. Seeing that, of course, Ling Feng intends to help him. Unfortunately, he can't help because every time he wants to fight, suddenly his whole body is always in pain for no reason. Ling Qing, who saw Ling Feng in pain, immediately brought him home to deal with it. In his heart, Ling Feng thought that he was very grateful to have an older sister like Ling Qing who always helped him even though she was having a hard time. So because Ling Feng didn't want to see Ling Qing in trouble again, Ling Feng intended to become strong and take revenge on the person who had always bullied his older sister. However, with a body like this, it would be difficult for him to develop. Then at night arrived, where his sister brought a medicine pill that was very, very expensive. Of course, here Ling Feng asked how it was safe for Ling Qing to get the pills. Ling Qing replied that she got it from the Lingwu Academy, where every month the students would be given 1 pill to maintain their health. Seeing his older sister's sacrifice, Ling Feng promised that soon, everything would change. The story is short on the day, where the effect after eating the pill makes him able to move. As well as Ling Feng also thought that to pass the limit of this body he would have to practice like in hell, where the first exercise to do is to walk as far as 3,000 meters. With this body, it was really hard for him to walk that far, but in reality, it was not what he expected. He managed to walk 6,000 meters on the first day. A month later, after going through quite rigorous training, Ling Feng increased his weight so he could cross the limit, where he will carry a large rock that has a load of 100 kilograms. And in practice this time he managed to walk as far as 50 meters. But unsatisfied with the training, he tries even further until unexpectedly he has traveled for 50 laps. Seeing the second exercise successfully carried out made Ling Feng happy because with this he had already crossed the physical limit of his body. But soon he suddenly felt pain and fell. In his mind, Ling Feng asked if he had died after such hard training. And it turns out he didn't die, but suddenly he was in a place filled with golden colored water. When he looked, it turned out that this was not water but the sake that was drunk at the beginning of the story. Feeling confused, then Ling Feng remembered what really happened and how he got here. The beginning of this calm sake suddenly surged and submerged Ling Feng to the deepest point. But at the same time, Ling Feng woke up from his sleep. His state this time was better than before. Then Ling Feng recalled what he learned before, that this was not a dream, where it was in his conscious mind. And what's more surprising is that sake has returned his meridians to how they used to be. And if you see this, you can conclude that the effect from sake at the beginning of the new story has an effect now. That's right. His guess was his thought, that after going through the washing last night his body got stronger, even many times his physique in his first life. Now because Ling Feng was curious about the extent of his current abilities, He tried to lift a stone that weighed 2,500 kilograms. It was clear that with his current strength, Ling Feng managed to lift and even destroy the rock like gravel. Seeing that he was already strong, Ling Feng intends to take revenge on someone who bullied his older sister. After the training was finished, Ling Feng returned home to rest. When it arrived, Ling Feng was very surprised because Ling King was in pain and his body was very cold. On the side of Ling King said if she dies, then Ling King asks Ling Feng to live independently. Hearing those words made Ling Feng even more worried, and he immediately went to Mount Linwu to find medicine to cure him. However, when they were there, the two of them were confronted by several people who were none other than children who often bullied their older sisters. They were Ao Feng, Ao Yu, and Long Yu, where instead of helping them, instead they asked Ling Feng to leave here while badmouthing Ling King. Of course, hearing those words made Ling Feng angry and challenged Ao Feng to a duel. Of course, the offer was accepted and the duel ensued. Because now Ling Feng was in a hurry, he immediately used his strength, where with one punch he managed to reverse Ao Feng's attack and even burned his hand. Seeing that, Ao Feng couldn't believe it, and how could Ling Feng be that strong? Meanwhile, Ao Feng's subordinates who did not accept it immediately attacked Ling Feng. However, the attack was repulsed and Ling Feng attacked to beat them black and blue. Furthermore, after beating them all up, Ling Feng took a sedative so that Ling King's condition would ease. After getting the pills, Ling Feng and Ling King went home. However, the pill could not get rid of Ling King's illness. For that, in the morning, Ling Feng will go to the forest and look for some plants that can be used as medicine. And the first thing he did was look for hot grass. After a long search, he finally found it. Unfortunately, from behind suddenly there is a tiger monster who intends to kill him. But that didn't make Ling Feng scared. Instead, he was excited because he was also going to try his strength. In short, even with a small attack, he managed to kill the tiger. This made him happy because Ling Feng didn't bother looking for dinner too much. And finally, what is needed is red fruits, and rumors are these fruits are in the middle of the forest. So it will take a long time to find the fruit. 2 hours later, finally, Ling Feng found him and started to take some fruits to be used as medicine. But before going home, suddenly a big lion was waiting for this place. So to be able to go, like it or not, Ling Feng has to defeat the lion. Different from the previous star, this tiger has great strength in a medium-level realm. So this is very appropriate to test how far his strength is now. Without long, Ling Feng began to emit his aura, which indicated the battle had begun. Their battle was initially quite fierce, but the tiger managed to withstand its attacks. However, when Ling Feng is in serious mode, with just one punch, he can topple the monster. In this way, the tiger finally fell and Ling Feng made him a pet so he could take care of his older sister. Then after, Ling Feng started cooking to prepare dinner, but when he was cooking, suddenly his sister screamed in fear, which turned out to be the result of the actions of the tiger who was beside Ling King's bed. Hearing the commotion, Ling Feng immediately went there to explain and asked the tiger to have a small and cute face so that Ling King wouldn't be scared. The next day, suddenly someone knocked on his door. It turned out that it was Ao Feng, who brought his older brother named Ao Shan. Where in the academy, Ao Shan was known as a genius and was already at the 6th level of the Wu-Tu realm. Their coming here was revenge. Ling Feng casually responded that it was no big deal. Of course, those words made Ao Shan angry and attacked. Seeing this, Ling Feng asked the tiger to fight Ao Shan. Of course, Ao Shan and the others saw the presence of high-level monsters frightened and just left. They were also confused as to why Ling Feng, someone so weak, could command such a terrifying beast. At night, Ling Feng started cultivating to improve his realm. And after cultivating all night, finally Ling Feng managed to break through to the 1st level of the Wu-Tu realm. Knowing this, Ling Feng was astonished as to why his realm level could be this fast. Even though he used to be able to break through, it took a month. And Ling Feng's cultivation was quite different, where he absorbed the earth and sky energy into Kai energy. And unexpectedly, this method can make it quickly rise to level 3. And coincidentally, because today Lingwu Academy's registration was opened. Here Ling Feng intends to enroll there. Considering that he is confident in his abilities now, he can easily enter the Lingwu Academy. The panel switches to Lingwu Academy. Here we are shown that there are some rules and placements for some disciples who can pass the towering stairs in Lingwu Academy. Where in Mount Lingwu there are 99 steps. Whereas one who can climb 5 steps, then disciple is officially the Lingwu Outer Academy. Then if a disciple could climb 30 steps, they were qualified to train in the academy's interior. As for a disciple who can climb up to 50 steps, then they will be trained by the elders. And finally, if there are disciples who can reach the 99 steps, then they will obtain a secret practice book that has been passed down for generations by the elders in Lingwu Academy. But to reach the top is very difficult because there will be great pressure, so many mouths rarely even reach 30 to the top. And the highest average every year is only 20 steps. Next, we are shown a lot of students who are very enthusiastic about this registration. One of them was a person named Ao Yun, who he predicted would be going far in the assessment this time. Considering he was at the 4th level of the Wu-Tu realm, so at least 20 steps could be passed by him. Meanwhile, Ling Feng, who had just arrived, was immediately ridiculed by Aoyun and said why would someone like him who belonged to the lower realm join this registration. Of course here because Ling Feng got carried away intending to duel with him. However, that didn't happen when this academy's elder stopped and explained that the assessment was about to begin. Long story short, finally the Hindu competition started, but Ling Feng looked relaxed while watching the other students starting to climb the steps one by one. It can be seen that the stairs that are passed are quite large and have very high pressure, so the higher their realm the faster they can go to the top. But of the several students who could reach the 5th rung, only Aoyun alone, while the rest had difficulty and fell several times due to too much pressure. After a long time enjoying watching the disciples that seemed to be having a hard time, Ling Feng started to climb up. But before that, he offered to several families if he could bring down Aoyun, who is now on the 10th rung. One of the neighbor's family was willing to pay for it, but here that person was just playing around because there was no way someone as weak as Ling Feng could climb the 10th step. Dinny heard the ridicule. Ling Feng just smiled and started climbing. And soon he was quickly up to the 10th ladder and immediately brought Aoyun down. Seeing that everyone was shocked, how could someone who failed many times every year now quickly go up and down with great ease? Seeing a miracle performed by Ling Feng asked to field a requested disciple. However, Ling Feng refused them. However, if they were willing to pay 20 gold coins, he would do so. And from far away, the Lai family paid for it and asked Ling Feng to bring Ao Ming downstairs. In an instant, Ling Feng managed to complete the mission. However, the next request will be high. And lastly, there was one family that was willing to pay 250 gold coins to take down Lai Mo. Being offered such a generous amount of money made Ling Feng happy and would put Lai Mo down quickly. But it seems that Lai Mo is already preparing to fight with him. However, Ling Feng easily managed to defeat and complete his mission. Next, Ling Feng saw that there was a girl on the 20th step. Now here, he felt cold. Why didn't anyone order the girl to go down? Therefore Ling Feng would take him down, and while there the girl refused and attacked him. However, because her realm was higher than the girl's, Ling Feng managed to fight and bring her down the mountain. And when under, the master of the academy explained that the girl was not a student, but a new teacher named Yu Meng. Knowing this, Ling Feng apologized and left quickly so master wouldn't scold him. While running, Ling Feng was still thinking about why he did that. But to reduce his anxiety, Ling Feng focused on climbing up so that the atmosphere below would be calm. If it got to the bottom of worrying, the old man might invalidate Ling Feng's appraisal qualification. Below, the academy elders were still muttering about Ling Feng's attitude. This was because even though Ling Feng was a talented person, but such a trait was completely unbecoming of a disciple of the Lingwu Academy. While about to annul Ling Feng's qualification, Ling King and the lion asked the elder to pardon the little brother. From a distance, Yu Meng said that she had forgiven him. Let Ling Feng do the assessment first because he is a promising son. Hearing this explanation, the elder couldn't help but cancel his intent. He was puzzled why teacher Yu Meng was so unusual, even though Ling Feng was a problem child. Then, showing his cunning face, Yu Meng said in his heart that she was supporting Ling Feng to enter Lingwu Academy so that she could torture him to death later. Meanwhile, with his high self-confidence, Ling Feng intends to reach this mountain quickly. Ling Feng immediately showed his speed at the start when he climbed the first staircase. Seen when climbing stairs 1 to 10, Ling Feng felt no burden at all. Even he surprised Ao and Lai, who had just arrived at the stairs. Obviously, seeing Ling Feng unhindered once climbing up these stairs, they were completely shocked because there was no way anyone would be this calm and quick to climb up the 10th stair. Because of such a surprise, the two of them didn't see their footsteps and finally fell down. Ling Feng advised the two of them to watch their steps so they wouldn't fall again. After saying that, Ling Feng, who was very excited, jumped up the stairs again quickly, not realizing he had already reached the 29th stair. So it was only one step away from being able to enter the inner door of the Lingwu Academy. Without a single word from Ling Feng, he was able to reach that floor without feeling any difficulty. A blue aura enveloping his body indicated that now he was eager to climb up. Everyone below was amazed to see Ling Feng's prowess as he was the first disciple of the year. The family members of Ao and Lai are still confused as to why a boy who doesn't have a family is so powerful. Suddenly, teacher Yu Meng also felt astonished. Then, if 30 stairs are easy to climb, then how many stairs did Ling Feng stop? The elder with a proud face said that the boy could reach the 60th floor. Hearing that, Yu Meng said in his heart that the leader's rating was too high because it was very rare for a student to reach the 60th floor. The only one until now was only Xie Yun, the first dean in history that could reach the 65th floor. Returning to Ling Feng again, he realized that starting from the 30th stairway and up, the pressure started to be 12 pounds. But he can still hold such weight because his record of holding pressure is still at 2,500 pounds. Taking steps, Ling Feng was ready to climb up quickly. Suddenly it was floor 30, floor 40, floor 50, and finally Ling Feng stopped slightly on the 60th floor. Of course, everyone below was very surprised and delighted. Moreover, the elder said that Ling Feng should be properly trained as a disciple of Lingwu Academy. Then when he stepped on the 60th stair, the pressure of 2,200 pounds was indeed heavy and painful, but even so, he was still able to walk until he reached the 65th stair. This time the pressure finally made it difficult for Ling Feng to climb because his record was only at the 65th floor level. So when looking up from the mountain, he felt confident that he could reach the summit today. Then Ling Feng used all of his strength to reach the peak of the mountain. Little by little, Ling Feng started climbing 1 ladder, 2 stairs, and 3 stairs until finally he was able to reach 67 steps. Even though it looked like little by little Ling Feng started climbing 1 ladder, 2 stairs, and 3 stairs, he was starting to get tired and his hands were full of wounds. It felt higher and higher, the heavier the pressure from the Lingwu mountain wind. Despite being injured like that, little by little Ling Feng started climbing 1 ladder, 2 ladder, and 3 ladder and did not stop, instead determined to use this mountain as his training. Moments later, Ling Feng had already reached the stairway to the 98th floor. His blood began to drip from the 60th floor to the current floor. Suddenly, Elder and Yu Meng was amazed by Ling Feng's strength because he could hold it even though his body was badly injured. Even looking at the pressure this time, Ling Feng was unable to move. But because his determination was made up, his hands began to slowly reach for the last floor and lifted his body to get to that floor. One hand made it to the floor, but the pain doubled until it ripped his arm to shreds. Due to the heavy pressure of 5,000 pressure, Ling Feng vomited blood and almost fell over. But surprisingly, the strength Ling Feng still didn't stop there. The green aura around his body was getting bigger. Slowly, Ling Feng was able to stand up and start climbing the last floor. Until finally, the very heavy struggle resulted in victory, and now Ling Feng is at the top of Mount Lingwu. He stood proudly depicting his before reincarnation self. Below, Ling King and Lion were moved by Ling Feng's achievement. They both cried happy to see Ling Feng at the peak. After that, Ling Feng saw that there was an ancient book nearby. Ling Feng directly took the book and read it. But while reading the book, Ling Feng realized that the book was only a basic martial arts level. Ling Feng said on the Shenwu continent, martial arts practice books are generally ranked from strong to weak. Heaven and earth are divided into 4 levels. Above these 4 levels, there are even the most powerful, namely the spiritual, respect, holy, and divine god levels. Ling Feng had said that in his previous life when he was still in the Wusang realm, this kind of practice book was useless. But for the people who are here, this book is very useful. Then an idea emerged that with this book he could use to make money. When going down with torn clothes, everyone greeted him cordially, especially the Academy Elder. Elder says, "Is Ling Feng willing to become a disciple of Lingwu Academy?" Ling Feng replied that he was willing to become a disciple of this academy. But what Ling Feng wanted was to study chemistry. Suddenly, the Academy Elder was very surprised by Ling Feng's choice, because according to him his talent was very suitable for the Tao. By focusing on the Tao, his strength would not be limited. Ling King was also surprised by Ling Feng, even though previously Ling Feng really liked martial arts. In his heart, Ling Feng said martial training at Lingwu Academy was very useless. All he needed were resources. Alchemy was the fastest way to obtain resources, but he was also at a loss to explain to his older sister. In Hustle, Yu Meng said that she would support him. Ling Feng felt suspicious why this woman was so friendly to him, even though before she wanted to kill him. Once again, Elder asked Ling Feng to reconsider his decision. But because Ling Feng already believed in his decision, he immediately chose to become an alchemist. And to his surprise, the one who would become the alchemist teacher would be Yu Meng. It turns out that Yu Meng is one of the alchemists at Lingwu Academy. Upon receiving this fact, Ling Feng was extremely shocked. He felt that his day was going to be very bad. Next, Master Meng will leave and will wait for the presence of Ling Feng to practice. While on the side of Ling Feng, he inevitably had to accept it. Whereas the master who saw Ling Feng was a little disappointed and offered him to be his teacher. But Ling Feng refused as he now needed alchemist training. And he also mentioned the martial arts practice book he obtained earlier. Here Ling Feng said if he could have it. Of course, master allowed Ling Feng to have it, bearing in mind that the book would definitely be useful for Ling Feng's future training. But it turned out that Ling Feng was using the secret book not for practice but for business, where he told several families that they could read this book as long as they gave him 100 gold coins. However, 100 gold coins were just a glance. Hearing that, Ao Danli's family flocked to Bandung to give gold so they could learn the training techniques in the secret book. In short, what Ling Feng did today managed to get thousands of gold coins. Meanwhile, the Ao and Lai families finally realized that Ling Feng had lied to him from the start, because it turns out that the explanation in the book is very long, so if they only skim it then it's useless. While the master who saw him was astonished at Ling Feng, how could a practice book passed down from the ancestors be made a toy by him? After finishing doing business, Ling Feng brought the thousands of gold home and told Ling King, "With this much treasure, we can live without shortages like before, while the rest will be used by Ling Feng to buy equipment or clothes for training tomorrow." Where the next day when heading to the academy, you can see that Ling Feng's appearance has changed, in which he is wearing armor made of gold. Once here Ling Feng asked the tiger to take care of Ling King. Meanwhile, he was going to the alchemy branch to start training. Seeing Ling Feng wearing flashy clothes made Yu Meng angry because clothes like that weren't suitable for practicing alchemy. Well, after a lot of talking, finally Yu Meng explained the first exercise, where the practice is simple enough. Ling Feng must be able to bring a furnace that big and that great. However, that heavy load is nothing, considering that the previous training was much heavier. Meanwhile, Yu Meng, who saw this, did not believe it, even though the weight of the furnace was as heavy as a mountain. Then, because the first practice was easy, Yu Meng gave a scroll and asked Ling Feng to read it, where the contents of the scroll explain what alchemy is and its various properties in it. After reading more deeply, Ling Feng realized that even though Yu Meng's realm was not very high, she was very good in alchemy, therefore Master was very kind to Yu Meng. It was thanks to the scroll that Ling Feng finally learned in an instant and memorized several components. Again, it made Yu Meng disbelieve because Ling Feng managed to understand it quickly. After finishing, Ling Feng and Ling King went home to rest. Next, Ling Feng started cultivation to increase his realm. After a whole day of cultivation, finally, Ling Feng managed to advance to the Wu-2 realm level. Intrigued by his strength now, Ling Feng tried to destroy a rock nearby, and with just one touch managed to make the boulder shatter into pieces. Seeing the rapid development of his strength made Ling Feng happy because with this he could be stronger than in his first life. Well, that's all for today's storyline. If you like the video we made, don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next manhwa plot. Yesterday's part ended with Ling Feng having chosen to study alchemist, where he chose to study these things because he already had all the knowledge about all the realms. For this reason, he studied alchemy from teacher Yu Meng to make up for the deficiencies he had. And of course, this will be very difficult considering that all knowledge regarding alchemists has not been studied at all. Then how did Ling Feng get through it? Let's start the storyline. The story continues with Ling Feng, who started his alchemy training on the first day. The task that Yu Meng gave was to make a tier 1 elixir potion. Then after preparing some ingredients, Ling Feng started concocting the potions. At first, Ling Feng felt that this would be easy considering he was already at the 5th level of Wu-2. However, this exercise did not go as expected because on the first try, he failed miserably and instead the potion exploded. After 3 hours and several failures, finally, Ling Feng managed to make elixir first tier. Meanwhile, Yu Meng, who saw this, couldn't believe it, because first, he learned how to make elixir, which took 33 days. Seeing the greatness of Ling Feng, Yu Meng was very proud because, in the Lingwu Academy, there had finally appeared someone as talented and genius as him. Furthermore, the first stage could be completed by Ling Feng quickly. Yu Meng then proceeded with the second practice to refine an entry-level 7 elixir pill. And here Yu Meng limited the time to 7 months, considering that previously she could make 7 elixir entry levels for a year. However, after seeing the first exercise, it can be completed in just 3 hours, so 7 months is the passing time. However, Ling Feng said that he didn't need 7 months and promised Yu Meng that he could finish it in only half a month. Seeing those words, Yu Meng just smiled and said, "If you can try it." Half a month has passed, whereas per the initial agreement, Ling Feng succeeded in making 7 entry-grade elixir pills with 50% success. Seeing that, Yu Meng couldn't believe that Ling Feng could finish in just 15 days. Knowing this, then Yu Meng said that the conditions for becoming an alchemist had been completed and Ling Feng's status was now that of a beginner-level alchemist. Suddenly, their conversation stopped because there was the sound of the lion's roar in the Lingwu Academy outside. The panel continues into the outer academy, where we are shown that Ling King was injured in an attack by an inner academy female named Molan. This is why Mo Lan asked Ling King to give her pet lion to her. Of course, Ling King refused because Ling Feng the lion had become her best friend. Therefore, Ling King begged Mo Lan to ask for another. But still, Mo Lan refused and wanted the lion to be her pet. Long story short, because Mo Lan was annoyed, she immediately attacked Ling King, but the attack was successfully broken by the lion. But the lion couldn't fight back because Mo Lan was at the 2nd level of Wuji realm. In the end, in the second attack, they could only surrender. However, Ling Feng came at the right time and stopped the attack. Seeing Ling Feng coming, it wasn't that Mo Lan was scared, but instead launched an attack on him. Of course, even though here Ling Feng's realm was only at the 5th level of Wu-2's realm, he could easily defeat him and even manage to frighten him with his terrifying strength. Now the reason why Ling Feng is very strong is that even though he is in the realm of Wu-2 level 5 with a combination of his strong physique, the current level of Ling Feng at least includes Wuji level 5. So from that, Ling Feng can beat him easily. When the others saw that, they were very surprised and just fell silent because they did not expect Ling Feng could be that strong. Then after insulting Mo Lan, Ling Feng immediately gave Lai King Dan the lion some medicine so they could recover. However, the problem was not over because the teacher from Mo Lan did not accept and asked Ling Feng not to return to this academy. Remembering earlier he had beaten up Mo Lan the elder's son, or you could say the son of a respected person in this academy. Of course, Ling Feng refused while emitting his evil aura to frighten the teacher, while Yu Meng, who arrived, told the teacher to leave immediately because what Ling Feng said was the right thing. So rather than the problem continuing, then he had to go even though their pride was lowered. But the teacher still doesn't accept it and intends to complain to the elder. But finally, the problem was solved when masters came and helped Ling Feng. Where did the master want to help when Yu Meng told him that Ling Feng was now officially a beginner alchemist? Furthermore, after this matter was over, Ling Feng carried out cultivation to raise his realm to the next level. After a night of cultivating, Ling Feng was now at the 7th level of the Wu-Tu realm. Then the next day he went to the academy to start the 3rd stage of training. But now he's wearing normal clothes, remembering at first he was wearing gold clothes just to look cool. When he arrived at the academy, suddenly Ling Feng had been invited to a duel by one of the Ao family named Ao Shen, who was now at the 2nd level of the Wuji realm. The duel began when, with his strong aura, Ao Shen jumped and carried out a fast attack. But it could easily be avoided by Ling Feng. But the speed just now was just the start, as Ao Shen was suddenly behind Ling Feng. But unfortunately, his speed was not on par with Ling Feng. Here the angry Ao Shen then released aura into the desert and made a big attack on Ling Feng. Meanwhile, Ling Feng, who didn't want to lose, released an ability called Dominate Fist, which attack launched by Ling Feng managed to parry and hit Ao Shen until he was seriously injured. 3 days later, Yu Meng started teaching Ling Feng how to refine elixir. In practice, this differs from the previous one in that the builder is much easier than repairing. And sure enough, even though it had been 3 days, Ling Feng had not succeeded in repairing the elixir. However, because here Ling Feng is not unable to, but because he will soon break through, so when he does his mind is always disturbed, which fails. For this reason, Ling Feng asked Yu Meng to take a few days off so he could cultivate to improve his realm. Initially, Yu Meng refused because it was an excuse for Ling Feng to be lazy, but after being told the main reason, Yu Meng allowed only 4 days. Hearing this, Ling Feng was very grateful and would be back as soon as possible. The panel switches to a desert where Ling Feng is cultivating, where this place passes because increasing the Void Dao speed is very fast. And while there for 3 days, Ling Feng's realm rose to the 9th level. Feeling unsatisfied with his current strength, Ling Feng ate a cultivation enhancing pill that allowed him to quickly advance to the next realm. Then after consuming the elixir pills plus several hours of cultivation, finally Ling Feng managed to advance to the 10th level of the Wu realm. Intrigued by his current strength, Ling Feng tries to destroy a boulder with only long-range attacks. The effect of the attack is very powerful and touches the area around it. Not far from there, suddenly a pack of wolves came, surrounded and intended to eat Ling Feng. Seeing this, he wasn't scared but excited because he could try his strength against beasts. With his new attack called Heaven Technique, Long Yan Dao succeeded in killing all the wolves there. This technique is quite interesting because when it is active, a hot enough flame blazes around Ling Feng's body, which becomes a powerful attack. However, because now he rarely does physical exercise, his physique begins to weaken. And to avoid that, Ling Feng will train himself by bringing the wolves he preys down while lifting weights. But on the way home he was stopped by the Wolf King. Because the wolf was blocking his way, in an instant Ling Feng managed to kill him and immediately brought him home to be made for dinner. While Ling King, who saw this, was very surprised because Ling Feng did such a dangerous thing just for food. The next day after finishing cultivation, Ling Feng returned to practice alchemy at Lingwu Academy. But when he was there, many students crowded into the academy's main area. Ling King explained that there was now an annual battle competition that was held once a year, where this competition will be followed by the Lingwu Academy, which will fight the students from the Mo Yunzong Academy. This event was held for the sake of showing how things were progressing between the students of the two academies, which academy of Lingwu will be represented by several strong disciples like Mo Lanam, Ao Shen, and many others. But here Ling Feng was not interested, as this competition only had weak participants and would enjoy the spectacle. However, after hearing that the prize for the competition was a rivet weapon, Ling Feng thought he would follow suit because it seemed that Ling King wanted that weapon. While on the other hand, finally the academy of Mo Yunzong had arrived and was wearing robes. They came here arrogantly saying they don't need to take out their ace, they are enough to beat all the students here. Those words made Lingwu Academy's party furious and would seek revenge in the match. Long story short, the match begins, where the Lingwu Academy advances Ao Shen, who will face one of Mo Yunzong's students named Wan Qian. It can be seen that this first match went very quickly, where Wan Qian managed to overthrow Ao Shen with just one strike. And why is Wan Qian so strong? Because she is at the 8th level of the Wu-Tu realm, while Ao Shen is still on the same level as her. After several consecutive defeats to the Lingwu Academy's side, Mo Lan, who didn't want the pride of the Lingwu Academy to be humiliated, finally came forward. With a huge difference in strength, Mo Lan manages to beat Wan Shan easily. Seeing this, one of the aces named Long Ju stepped forward to face Mo Lan. For this fight, Mo Lan had a little difficulty because Long Ju's realm was far above him. And in the end, because she couldn't keep up with Long Ju Malin's strength, she had to lose badly. With that, it put the Lingwu Academy into a corner as no student could defeat Long Ju. And if no one advances, they will certainly win and bring the yellow weapon home. Seeing this, Ling Feng finally made his move and asked Chairman Mo to allow himself to enter this competition. At first Chairman Mo refused, but because there were no disciples he could finally allow Ling Feng to fight. As usual, with Ling Feng's arrogance, thanks to Long Ju, there is nothing. He asked for a duel with a woman there because even though the woman was hiding her strength, Ling Feng could see it. The master of the Mo Yanjiang Academy was in disbelief because All's child could see through the hidden strength of his ace disciple. It hasn't been explained who the woman is. For sure the woman will receive the duel if Ling Feng manages to defeat the case of the Mo Yanjiang Academy. Hearing this, Ling Feng arrogantly said, "Everyone, come on." These words made Long Ju angry and would finish him off in an instant. But the careless actions of Long Ju only became a disaster for him because with just one stick attack Ling Feng managed to defeat Long Ju. Seeing that one of her aces was defeated, the woman finally acknowledged Ling Feng's strength and would still wait for Ling Feng to beat all of her aces. Then one of the aces came in and did a high attack on him. But the powerful attack was caught and Ling Feng counterattacked, which defeated the second ace. Seeing that finally, the two aces of the Mo Yanjiang Academy advanced simultaneously. Before long they joined forces and launched a staged attack on Ling Feng. Once again the attack was successfully reversed and attacked until both of them were battered. While on the side Mo Lan looked silent and scared, remembering before if Ling Feng used all his strength then she would have been killed. After all the aces were defeated, finally, a woman named Zhang Shui came forward and immediately used the yellow book hand seal technique. But the high-level attack was easily repelled. However, from above the second attack continued. However, this time the attack was slightly stronger and almost offset Ling Feng's strength. Here Zhang Sui, who was already annoyed with him, finally showed his reliable strength when a rock appeared and was thrown very hard at him. Unfortunately, because the stone was not as heavy as the training, the stone was instead smashed into pieces. Seeing that Zhang Sui was speechless and couldn't believe that his signature attack could be defeated so easily. After holding on for quite a while, finally Ling Feng made his first attack, where the attack thwarted all of Zhang Sui's attacks and finally, then with a stick strike knocked Zhang Sui unconscious. The loss to Zhang Sui ended this competition and the competition was won thanks to Ling Feng, where Chairman Mo and Chairman Mo Yanjiang gave a gift in the initial agreement, where Chairman Mo gave him a yellow sword, while leader Mo Yanjiang gave him a book of Xuan level Mo Yanjiang. On hearing this, Ling Feng gave the yellow sword to Ling King while he was about to retrieve the book, but not for practice, doing for a business, and as usual he is auctioning this book for 10 advanced elixir. Knowing that Chairman Mo and the book's owner bid for the book very highly, things got even more exciting when Yun Meng came and bid with 200 elixirs. But the owner of the book doesn't want to lose and will give 50 advanced elixirs, because that was the highest offer Ling Feng accepted and gave it. So the reason why he gave it to him was that he had already read the book in his first life. Thus Ling Feng had no interest in possessing this book and had already memorized every verse written in the book. Before returning to the continent, Shen Wu Zhang Sui challenged Ling Feng again that in the next competition, she would win. Hearing this, Ling Feng only smiled and had to be even stronger, remembering that Zhang Sui's attack had injured his insides. After the troubles were over, Ling Feng had another trouble with Yu Meng. Yu Meng scolded Ling Feng for acting recklessly again by entering this competition. She scolded Ling Feng because previously the pill-making practice had not been given to him. So that's why Yu Meng scolded him. Of course, Ling Feng couldn't do anything this time. He immediately said that he was going to the alchemy branch. After taking some pills from Ling Feng, Yu Meng gave him 10 days to make advanced pills. If Ling Feng couldn't make it within that period of time, then he would have to suffer the consequences. With an innocent face, Ling Feng tried to buy him much more time. But Yu Meng with a sword pointed at Ling Feng's neck said if there are only two choices, go to the alchemy branch or die now. The dean who was watching them from a distance felt extremely proud that Ling Feng had given Lingwu Academy great honor. He persuaded Ling Feng to leave the chemistry branch and enter martial arts. Moreover, Yu Meng is a teacher who is very fierce toward Ling Feng. Ling Feng ran towards the alchemy branch while saying that he still liked alchemy, so Ling Feng refused his offer. 10 days later at the alchemy research site, there was a huge explosion. Immediately Yu Meng and Ling King headed there immediately to see the state of Ling Feng. At that time, it looked like Ling Feng was the same as Goku with spiky hair. Yu Meng asked him why he could be like that. Ling Feng replied that he had completed the advanced pill within 10 days. Upon seeing the pill ball with the magnifying glass, Yu Meng was very surprised because this pill was advanced. Immediately, Ling Feng immediately asked for one thing, namely to take a few months off. He reasoned that he encountered a bottleneck in his cultivation, so for the time being he needed to calm himself down. Hearing this, Yu Meng couldn't refuse because alchemy also needed time to calm down. Of course, Yu Meng will give 10 days for vacation. If Ling Feng doesn't return within that time, then Ling King will be taken hostage. With a frightened face, Ling Feng replied that he would be on time this time. Before leaving, Ling King asked his little brother to be careful. Ling Feng confidently said that he would be fine. But while in the wilderness, suddenly Ling Feng climbs a tree with a bruised face. This can happen when fighting a boar that just attacked him. At first, Ling Feng could confidently beat him easily, but it turned out that he didn't realize that the wounds from his next battle still left him injured. And even worse, the level of this wild boar is Wuji level 5. That's why this wild boar is so strong. Then, because there was no other choice to fight the pigs, like it or not, Ling Feng had to eat 3 advanced pills in his pocket in order to break through to the Wuji level. Suddenly, the aura of Ling Feng increased in size to the point where it frightened the wild boar because the intimidation of this level was really great. It didn't take long for Ling Feng to immediately fall down by turning his body with a very strong wind. All the pigs that were there were blown apart by the force. Of course, this made Ling Feng feel surprised because, with his previous strength, he could not match the strength of this wild boar, but after entering the Wuji level he easily defeated them with his punch. Ling Feng felt grateful to be able to fight against these wild boars. With their opponents, he was able to break through his current level. Because of his gratitude to the wild boar, that night Ling Feng immediately burned the pig as a dish. Yeah, it sounds very cruel, but such is the nature of Ling Feng. A few moments later, someone appeared to be asking for help. The two of them were none other than Mo Yunzong. Gasping for breath, the two young men said that before they found a waterfall with water pressure strong enough to kill. Ling Feng didn't really care what they were saying and continued to eat the meat while looking at the two of them. The young man finally said the essence of the problem, which is at the bottom of the waterfall they found a small golden light. At first, they thought that it was a herb, but who would have thought that the light could devour human souls and just a glance could kill you? Luckily, they managed to escape at that time, but several of his brothers were killed by the golden light. Immediately hearing that golden light could devour souls, Ling Feng was immediately drawn to see it for himself. The next day, Ling Feng had already arrived at the place the two of them had said. After looking around the area, he realized that the waterfall could be used to strengthen his bronze body, until finally Ling Feng found a golden light at the bottom of the river. He directly throws himself into the river and heads to the bottom. The deeper he dived, the more intense the pressure was, but Ling Feng made it to the bottom and he found that the golden light was the soul flower. The flower had an extremely dazzling golden glow. Ling Feng said on the Shenwu continent, apart from martial arts and body cultivation, there is another extremely rare cultivation type, where they are able to get their consciousness into mental strength and apply it to kill invisibly, and they are called spiritual masters. Then when he said that suddenly when he approached the soul flower, Ling Feng felt pain in his head. But Ling Feng didn't stop and tried to hold the flower, because according to him, to become a spiritual master, the first thing he had to do was to awaken mental strength, and soul flower is one of them. But soon his consciousness slowly began to be controlled by the soul flower, making him unable to move at all. Because he was in the water too long, the water entered his mouth and made his consciousness begin to disappear. Suddenly the spell paper connected to the soul flower stuck to his head and brought Ling Feng's consciousness back. Of course, it made him panic because the slightest mistake could kill him, but somehow thanks to the spell paper he managed to gain mental strength. Next, Ling Feng immediately tried his mental strength by meditating. With the power of metal, he can create things with his imagination. This time, what Ling Feng first issued was a golden sword. Then he tried to use the golden sword to destroy one of the nearby trees. Surprised, after throwing the gold into the tree immediately dried up in a few seconds. Seeing his current development, Ling Feng felt very proud to be able to come to this place. But Ling Feng still wanted to strengthen his strength again in this waterfall. He wanted to increase his lifting ability beyond 6,000 pounds. Before starting the practice, Ling Feng apologized to his older sister that he could not keep his promise, but Ling Feng was sure that Yu Meng would not kill his older sister. The next day, exactly 10 days, Yu Meng felt very upset because Ling Feng could not keep his promise. She angrily tries to take Ling Feng's older sister hostage. Meanwhile, Ling King was worried about why Ling Feng had not come back. Also, don't let him run into a big problem during that training. On the 10th day, to be precise, at the waterfall, Ling Feng was seen lying limp and lost consciousness due to the water pressure, which reached 8,000 pounds. I don't know what happened next to Ling Feng. A month later, Yu Meng, who was already very worried, immediately asked the dean to bring a team to see Ling Feng's condition. Entering the wilderness for a moment, the dean realized that a monster like that would have been easily defeated by Ling Feng. But why hasn't he returned for over a month? Not long after exploring the place, the dean and others were surprised by a monster figure that was approaching. It turned out that it wasn't a scary monster but a pile of monsters that had been defeated by Ling Feng. Suddenly seeing Ling Feng, who was fine, everyone felt shocked but also happy. On the other hand, Yu Meng was very annoyed that Ling Feng was worrying everyone. For his mistake, Ling Feng immediately apologized and explained what happened. But before that, King felt there was a difference from Ling Feng's skin, which according to Ling King, the skin of his younger brother was a little fairer than before. Ling Feng explained that 12 days after entering the wilderness, he tried to make his bronze body adapt to the pressure of 8,000 pounds. But unexpectedly, a few days later, the pressure was even greater until it reached 10,000 pounds. The pressure was very heavy and made his body hurt. Even so, Ling Feng tried his best to survive no matter what. Finally, with his hard work, he managed to break through to silver body, but he only mentioned to Yu Meng that he only soaked. Yu Meng, who heard those words from Ling Feng's mouth, was very annoyed and intended to punish him. The deacon stopped her and said that Yu Meng's anger could hinder Ling Feng's potential. Thus the dean asked Ling Feng to join martial arts instead of alchemy. Yu Meng tells the dean that in 2 months' time, Ling Feng will have to take part in the alchemy competition. Ling Feng is the only one from Lingwu Academy who will take part in the competition. So it was certain that Ling Feng could not accept the offer from the dean. Yu Meng immediately explained that in the competition there would only be 10 contestants and one of them would be Ling Feng. She asked Ling Feng to earnestly win this competition no matter what. According to the competition's data, disciple Mo Yunzong had more than one alchemy master, so to be able to match all of them he had to refine high-grade pills. Hearing this, Ling Feng was determined to get serious because he could make his high-grade pill to cure his sister's ailment. Long story short, Ling Feng tries to work hard to make high-level pills, but for the past 10 days, he has always failed to condense them. Even his hair looks the same as Yugi from anime Yu-Gi-Oh! Seeing his students practice hard enough but fail, Yu Meng felt something strange. It was rare for Ling Feng to fail within 10 days. She tried to motivate him to be careful in doing so and not to rush the pills. Ling Feng, who got motivated, was very happy, but it was just an act because it turned out that during these 10 days, he managed to make up to 10 high-grade pills. But he didn't say it to Yu Meng so that the pill he made wouldn't be taken again like before. His success was none other than his awakened mental strength. He could create high-grade pills with a success ratio of 100%. This meant that Ling Feng was an unbeatable alchemist. Then Ling Feng carefully brought the high-grade pills home so that they would not be taken by Yu Meng. 2 months passed. Yu Meng felt strange about why Ling Feng failed over and over again, so she had the idea to see Ling Feng directly in the process, that way Ling Feng would be motivated again. Of course, on the other hand, Ling Feng was very surprised that Yu Meng was sleeping in this place. As usual, the two of them fought because of different opinions, and finally, Ling Feng finished it quickly so as not to be scolded continuously. Upon seeing the pill with the magnifying glass, Yu Meng was extremely shocked because this pill was Ning Xuan and it was a high-grade pill. Finally, Yu Meng realized that Ling Feng was hiding something back there, and it turned out that Ling Feng had made many types of high-grade pills. Then, very angry, Yu Meng immediately tore his clothes with his sword. It was only from there that she could get lots of high-grade pills from Ling Feng's clothes. Even though he felt irritated at being toyed with by a student like him, Yu Meng was very proud of Ling Feng's accomplishments. How could he not make high-grade pills so easily? She admitted that Ling Feng's talent was far superior to his. Then with confidence, Ling Feng says that the one who will win the competition will be me. Competition day finally arrived. Unexpectedly, the dean also came there to see the progress of Ling Feng during these 3 months. As usual, Ling Feng arrogantly said that the 9 was a loser. Instantly, it caused the dean to feel shocked because Ling Feng insulted the alchemy master level participants. It wasn't long before Mo Yunzong finally arrived. He was very surprised because in this competition there was Dean Zia. He was honored to be seen by Academy Master Ling Wu in person. On the other hand, from the side of the disciple of Mo Yunzong named Hanzai Omo, underestimated Ling Feng's abilities because according to the news that was circulating, he was a non-alchemy fighter. Receiving such ridicule, Ling Feng only remained silent because later he was sure that they would all cry. Soon the competition finally started. You can see Mo Yunzong's disciples are already in front of the furnace to refine high-grade pills. The alchemy contest is divided into 3 games, the first game being the quality of the elixir. No matter what level of elixir it is, the best quality elixir will win the game. The time in this competition is only 2 hours. If more than that time, that person will be eliminated. After the start of elixir refining, surprisingly Ling Feng borrowed a chair from Yu Meng to sleep first. Obviously, this made all the participants who were there very surprised by the stupidity. They thought that maybe Ling Feng had given up before starting the match. Therefore they are more enthusiastic about making elixir better than the other disciples because the stupid can no longer make elixir. Yu Meng saw Ling Feng relaxed and immediately scolded, saying if Ling Feng could win this competition, then she could give him a full month's vacation. Ling Feng, who heard this, immediately got up and said that it was a very good negotiation. I will definitely win and I will show them the real ruthlessness. Well, that's all story for today. Will Ling Feng be able to make high-level elixir defeat all participants? We'll just continue tomorrow. This time we will still continue the story of the extreme god Manhwa. The previous part was about Ling Feng, who trained hard for a month to strengthen his body, even though he managed to enter the realm of Wuji quickly. Then after that, Ling Feng was required to take part in the alchemy competition against Mo Yunzhong's 9 alchemy masters. In the first game, it seemed that Ling Feng looked relaxed, but after receiving negotiations from Yu Meng for a month's leave, only then was there Ling Feng serious about winning this competition. Then how is the continuation of the story? Without taking a long time, just start the story. The story goes from Mo Yunzhong's disciples being angry because Ling Feng was too arrogant like that. One of the disciples asked the others to ignore him because it would distract their focus. While Ling Feng's side was already preparing to cast his first elixir, he said that he couldn't hide his strength. He directly directed the overflowing green aura towards the furnace. The skill was called Cyclone. This type could only be done when one was at the Wuji level. Of course, from a distance, Yu Meng and the Dean were shocked that Ling Feng's progress was truly insane. After seeing that the flames were enormous, he immediately used spiritual strength to increase the quality of the elixirs. While still working on those elixirs, Mo Yunzhong's disciples had already finished their elixirs. It could be seen from the elixirs that they were of many high quality, and the highest of all Mo Yunzhong's disciples was Leng. His elixir was of advanced quality named Ning Zhen Den. Of course, that made Decan panic a bit. All disciples Mo Yunzhong is very talented. Until finally time passed 2 hours later, and it was seen that at that time Ling Feng felt difficulty even to the point where the furnace exploded. Obviously, this made everyone immediately cheer for him, but with a smile like mocking, Ling Feng took something out of the furnace, not an elixir, but for these 2 hours he baked sweet potatoes. Everyone who saw this, especially Yu Meng, was furious because he was always playing around. With his innocent face again, Ling Feng explained that he had already made an elixir 1 hour ago, and it was true that the elixir he made shocked all of Mo Yunzhong's disciples. How could the elixir he made be high level and have perfect quality? Leng, on the other hand, realized something from Ling Feng's demeanor. He felt that Ling Feng had a terrifying talent. He thought it would be difficult to win this competition. The second game finally started. The game this time is quite simple because the participants only need to make as many high quality pills as possible. Whoever can make a lot and have quality, that person will be the winner. Time in this game as many as 4 hours. Before the competition started, one of the female students wanted to compete with Ling Feng, who would get the most elixirs and later would be beaten up. Of course, Ling Feng couldn't refuse because he could play around this time. The woman's purpose for doing this was so that Ling Feng would not focus and would be eliminated. But it seemed that Ling Feng had already realized it and was about to refine a high-grade elixir that greatly exceeded Mo Yunzhong's disciple. Surprisingly, Leng can make 10 elixirs with a success rate of 100%. Of course, this is a very serious situation because Ling Feng must have a better elixir than Leng. The girl who fought with Ling Feng could only make 5 elixirs alone. In the silence, suddenly Ling Feng's furnace exploded. Luckily, he had already finished making the elixir, and he made 10 high-grade elixir of the best quality this time. Of course, with that in this game, Ling Feng is the winner. Mo Yunzhong, who saw this, was extremely dumbfounded because he didn't know that Ling Feng was also skilled in alchemy. This means that then the woman will be punished. Without noticing the others, Ling Feng immediately kicked her flying up, even though he did it without using a Wuji level technique. The third day finally begins. Leng approached Ling Feng and said, "Today I will defeat you." This game is also quite easy. Any participant who can make a high-quality elixir will win. Time to complete it within 6 hours. Upon seeing Leng's ingredients, Ling Feng realized that this kid would definitely make Ning Xuandan. Then the only thing that can match him is my half-step Xuandan technique. Feeling a challenge, Ling Feng felt motivated and made it quickly. But while in the process, he realized that Leng had planned this and maybe he could make it more than his own, so because of that, Ling Feng had to make elixir higher than Leng. Ling Feng directly combined the elixir with the Wuji Storm martial art, because that power was so strong that even the furnace flew. His aura was getting stronger and stronger, but Ling Feng managed to control the elixir. Then it ends with the spiritual master. His spiritual light was enough to destroy the furnace. Meanwhile, Leng had succeeded in refining the elixir Ning Xuandan, but had already reached the half-step Xuandan level. This was in accordance with the plan that Mo Yunzhong had told him last night. With such a result, all of the Mo Yunzhong disciples immediately cheered for Ling Feng because they thought that Ling Feng would not be able to fight against Leng's elixirs. Meanwhile, Ling Feng was still calm and finished his newest elixir. But after taking it, Ling Feng felt very shocked because the color of the elixir was very dark and gloomy. After looking at it in more detail, it turns out that the elixir is Xuandan. This elixir is higher than half-step Xuandan. but the quality of this elixir is not very good. But a young man who can make elixirs at this age is insane. Existence of that thing. The winner in this competition was Ling Feng. Mo Yunzhang's disciples who saw this felt angry and cursed at him. They said that next year Lang would win this competition. But with a slight limp face, Lang explained that it is very likely that next year he will not be able to win the competition because Ling Feng's talent is insane. Hearing that, one of the students there had a good idea. That is to go to the desert and gather Lingwu Academy's students and destroy them. Yeah, this is a very dire thing that Ling Feng will have to go through soon. After the competition ends, Ling Feng claims promise to Yu Meng. Yu Meng explains if Ling Feng doesn't come back within 1 month, then she will kill him. From that place, Ling Feng rewarded the lion with an elixir pill for breaking through the Wuji level. That way all of his family were at the Wuji stage. On this matter, Ling Feng would not worry if he left for 1 month. The next day, Ling Feng practiced to find out the extent of his spiritual ability. Upon trying it, his eyes suddenly turned white and he let out a technique called the mysterious soul hanging arrow, which shattered the snow in front of him. Suddenly, hearing the commotion made Ling King feel confused about what was going on. Ling Feng made excuses that nothing happened, it was just an illusion. Then Ling Feng bid farewell to Ling King to leave the house and conduct training for the next month. Long story short, while under the gun, Ling Feng found 2 people were seriously injured. To Ling Feng's surprise, the 2 of them were disciples from the Lingwu Academy. The 2 of them said Mo Yunzhang had deceived many people. They dispatched an intermured and expelled Academy disciple Lingwu from the wasteland. This problem was able to happen because Mo Yunzhang previously lost in the alchemy competition. Hearing this, Ling Feng was furious that they had attacked the other disciples. Feeling guilty, Ling Feng postponed his training and was going to teach disciple Mo Yunzhang a lesson. 3 days passed to be precise. In the wasteland, all disciples was beaten to a pulp by disciple Mo Yunzhang for no reason. They were confused as to why this had happened to them, but within 3 days there was no response from senior. In this confusion, a girl told everyone that Lai Xuan decided to end his exile and head to the wasteland. Hearing the good news, the disciples were optimistic again and believed that Lai Xuan would win the fight. But there is bad news again. Lai Xuan's opponent is very strong. His opponent is none other than Long Yu, Serping with the strongest strength in the Mo Yunzhang Academy. It wasn't long before news came back that Lai Xuan was doing nothing against Long Yu. Then hearing this news, all of Ling Wu's disciples felt hopeless. The possibility of being chased out of the wasteland really did happen. A few hours later, a young man from Lingwai Academy named Feng Lingtian managed to single-handedly defeat several gate masters of Mo Yunzhang. This Feng Lingtian was the masked man who was none other than Ling Feng himself. As usual, Ling Feng was playing around with his opponents by drawing a tortoise on his head. He was doing it all to ridicule disciple Mo Yunzhang. Of course, because of the many fallen Mo Yunzhang disciples, Long Yu finally joined the battlefield to fight against Ling Feng. He felt furious for daring to do all this. If Ling Feng finds me, I will kill him. Now he asked his 2 friends to scatter into the forest in order to find Ling Feng as soon as possible. Long story short, during the escape, one of Long Yu's friends had fallen first. From above the trees, Ling Feng taunts the 2 of them about whether the tortoise drawing is good. Of course, his friend didn't accept it and released a huge aura to finish off Ling Feng. Ling Feng immediately descended from the tree with the new dragon flame sword technique, slashing that person with a single strike. Surprisingly, the technique could overwhelm that person in one go. Again and again, Ling Feng drew a huge turtle to infuriate Long Yu, but this time he would tell the exact location of the battle arena nearby. Finally, after a long time, Long Yu found the 2 comrades. He was surprised that his 2 comrades had fallen. However, after seeing the large paper on the tree, he realized that the culprit was Ling Feng. Of course, it made him very angry and would kill Ling Feng no matter what. The story moves on in the Wasteland Arena, and all the students there are very surprised that Long Yu is in that arena. Of course, Ling Feng was also there and was waiting for him leisurely. As you all know, this Ling Feng is very naughty and provoked Long Yu to attack him. Then quickly Long Yu used high speed to attack. But according to Ling Feng, the speed was still slow. Long Yu then used the Tiger Fist technique to blow him away, while Ling Feng also used the Blaster Fist technique to block the attack. Barak and both of their techniques were truly insane. Ling Feng admitted that Long Yu's strength was not to be underestimated. Next, Long Yu took out the 9-turn treasure wheel technique, which made the area slightly vibrate. Instead, Ling Feng directly used his full power Blaster Fist technique. The attack managed to break through Yu's defenses and sent him crashing into the hills there. Surprised even after being hit by such an attack, Yu could still survive, and now Yu had even broken through to the half-step Wuxi realm. Yu's pressure now was completely different from before. He wielded a sword and used high-level skills that would crush Ling Feng in one go. Luckily, Ling Feng managed to avoid it, but getting hit by it would definitely hurt. He has a way to deal with that problem. That is by attacking him directly. But what happened? The attack couldn't hurt Yu's body at this Kali level. Even on that occasion, you managed to slash her sword until it tore the clothes off Ling Feng. Not only that, but you also managed to kick Ling Feng into the hill. Seeing Ling Feng, who could still stand you, was amazed, but he immediately attacked Ling Feng brutally. Ling Feng managed to hold him back, and this time he tried to punch him, but you managed to knock him down until he was seriously injured. After realizing that his opponent was too strong, Ling Feng had no choice but to display his true strength. He took out his spiritual skill and managed to break through Yu's defenses until it hollowed out a hole in his body. With this opportunity, finally, with a very strong punch, Ling Feng managed to defeat Yu, the disciple of Mo Yunzong. Of course, everyone who saw that was very surprised, because how could Yu be defeated by someone below their level? Then there was one person reacting in the crowd. He created a huge killing intent at Ling Feng. Ling Feng, who realized it, immediately left this place. Before leaving this arena, he made an announcement that the wasteland now belongs to Lingwu Academy. Then he left with his green aura away from the person with the killing aura, until finally he managed to escape from that person and immediately rested. As a result of the fight, his energy was drained a lot. Then Ling Feng was taken aback because behind him was someone from the disciples of Mo Yunzong. It turned out that it was not a disciple but an assassin assigned by Mo Yunzong to kill Ling Feng. The masked pra immediately rushed to hunt him down. There was no one else who could help Ling Feng. Ling Feng, who was running continuously, met a dead end. The only way to get out of this situation was to face the masked person. The man turned out to be 2 levels higher than Ling Feng. That's why he was able to withstand the previous attacks. Even in a few attacks, the masked man managed to knock Ling Feng into the sea of evil spirits. Of course, the masked man would not let Ling Feng still live. He immediately jumped into the sea to ensure that Ling Feng must die. The masked priest then used strike from his powerful aura to push Ling Feng into the bottom of this evil spirit. As a result of this attack, Ling Feng couldn't move at all because his strength had run out. The masked priest again used his high-level skill to finish off Ling Feng right away. The skill was called 100 Spirit Arrow. Hundreds of very strong auras were ready to tear Ling Feng apart. But before they could be hit by the attack, Ling Feng also used his last chance, namely the power of spiritual. His eyes then light up, emitting a high-energy laser at the masked man. Surprisingly, this laser from Ling Feng hit the masked man first. Immediately hit by the laser, the masked priest felt excessive pain and exploded. Even though he was still alive from the explosion, the masked man said that he would kill Ling Feng with his last technique. Then suddenly from below, there was a very strong whirlpool rolling Ling Feng and the masked man. The story continues with Ling Feng, who fell into a whirlpool in the river of evil spirits. In his mind, at that time Ling Feng wondered if this was the end of his life. And suddenly the whirlpool entered a crevice and Ling Feng fell into a cave. When he woke up, Ling Feng was confused about where he was now, but what was certain was that thanks to falling into here, his life was saved. And the way to get out of here was to climb up. However, his injured body and running out of energy made it difficult for Ling Feng to stand, let alone crawl up. In this despair, suddenly in front of Ling Feng was a lot of gold grains. And when looking closely, Ling Feng could not believe that the gold was one of the rare items called the Golden Mystery Stone. Where is this item? Inside is filled with golden kai, and compared to the kai of heaven and earth, it is far away. Moreover, Ling Feng got 15 gold grains. Knowing this, Ling Feng was very fortunate, because with this, not only his body was white, but with 1 gold grain, he could accelerate his cultivation to a more advanced realm. It didn't take long for him to break open the gold and start cultivating. And it didn't take long for all the wounds on his body to heal completely. And what's most interesting is after using item kai is now golden in color and starting now. Although the realm from now on is not yet at a high level, with this gold kai, he is already on par with Wuji level 5-9. Then after feeling better, Ling Feng headed up and out of the cave. And when they managed to get out, it turned out that it was not the sea, but a beautiful place. It had not yet been explained why Ling Feng was suddenly here. What was certain was that after seeing the different aura in this place, Ling Feng decided to cultivate in this place. Not far away, Ling Feng saw several golden apes near the waterfall. Seeing that there were beasts here, Ling Feng intended to fight them and test how strong he was now. Long story short, after successfully killing the golden monkeys, Ling Feng came home and brought the golden monkey meat for their dinner. While Ling Feng saw that, was worried because Ling Feng did something dangerous again. But when he saw the hungry Ling Feng, Ling King immediately made a dish out of the golden monkey's meat so that Ling Feng could have a leisurely meal tonight. Furthermore, after finishing, Ling Feng gave Ling King the gold stone to heal cold spirit from Ling King, who had not been attacked for a long time. With pride, Ling King accepts and will start using the gold stone, where the effect of the gold stone succeeded in eliminating the cold spirit, and most importantly, the appearance of Ling King changed. Suddenly her hair became blonde and her stature became beautiful. Seeing this, Ling King couldn't believe how this could happen. Meanwhile, Ling Feng, who saw that, felt happy because, with this, no one would bully Ling King anymore. Since it was time for the academy, Ling Feng and Ling King rushed over to start training. All the disciples who were there fell silent and said, "Who was the person who was with Ling Feng?" Ling Feng arrogantly said that she was the Ling King that you bullied before. Hearing that, all the disciples couldn't believe it because Ling King's appearance changed drastically in just one night. Meanwhile, Ling Feng is going to meet Master Young Meng, considering he has been absent for a few days due to yesterday's matter. And to apologize for his absence for a few days here, Ling Feng gave a gold stone to Master Yu Meng. But Ling Feng didn't give this away for anything, but with some advanced elixirs. While teacher Yu Meng, who saw the item, was silent and said where Ling Feng found this item. Here Ling Feng didn't say much and immediately asked for advanced elixir in exchange. Now, because this stone is very useful for him, teacher Yu Meng gave him some elixir to be able to get this item. What turned out to be the reason Master Yu Meng wanted this item was that since birth my Danshan was cracked, and that's what got him stuck at the 7th level of the Wu Tu realm. So with that gold stone can repair my Danshan, which allows him to increase his realm. Then after obtaining this item, Master Yu Meng will give him freedom for today because she will now cultivate using the golden stone. While on Ling Feng's side, despite being given free reign today, he did not waste his time and started training. And this time he intends to break the record for making Xuan Dan. During those 10 days of training, Ling Feng managed to create a third Xuan Dan and another kind of Xuan Dan. Knowing that he could skate this, Ling Feng was proud of himself. In the middle of the practice, Mo Lan suddenly came and shouted for Ling Feng to come out, which turned out to be here. Mo Lan brought her older brother named Mo Kong, where previously Mo Lan complained to Mo Kong to get revenge on Ling Feng. It turned out that Mo Kong was a legendary disciple of the spiritual realm and one of the few geniuses within the academy. It didn't take long for Mo Kong, who didn't accept Mo Lan being beaten, to take revenge today, where he had prepared to issue an ability and start an attack. Here Ling Feng certainly also did not stay still and also attacked. And the result of the clash was Ling Feng managed to win it, which effect of the clash made Mo Kong bounce. However, it turned out that Mo Kong had not exerted all of his abilities, and now that he was angry, he couldn't help but show how his strength had changed. With a lethal aura, Mo Kong started to attack. Of course, this would be very difficult for Ling Feng because their shutter levels were far apart. But here Ling Feng does not give up and will also do something to prevent the attack. However, the clash did not occur when Yu Meng came and stopped the fight. Yu Meng said that what Ling Feng did was right. Even though what he said was true here, Mo Kong still didn't accept it, but after knowing that teacher Yu Meng was one of the most respected alchemists there, he gave up his intention now to take revenge, because it would be a problem if he were to deal with one of the honorable people in the academy. However, here Mo Kong challenges Ling Feng in the duel Mo Ling, which will be held in a few months. Getting the challenge, Ling Feng accepted it and would win the competition. After the matter was over, Master Yu Meng thanked Ling Feng, because with the Mi Stone he gave her earlier, she had reached the first rank of the martial master realm as a martial artist. The story continues 20 days later. We are shown Ling Feng still learning elixir refinement, where at that time he was still having trouble making Xuan Dan. However, even though he can only make about 15, elixir made by him is very good and has a high effect. Meanwhile, Yu Meng, who saw this, was already very amazed because no one learned alchemy as quickly as Ling Feng. Feeling that Ling Feng had studied enough, Yu Meng gave him a Master Alchemist award, and his next task is to guard the gate and look for some students. Ling Feng proudly accepts and promises to do his best to get quality disciples. The story changes to the next day when Ling Wu's assessment day has started. Like the initial story, many students intend to enroll in the Ling Wu Dan Academy, aiming to be able to have the same fate as Ling Feng. As in the rules at the beginning of the story, whoever can climb the ladder the most will be at the high level of the Ling Wu Academy. An hour later, the evaluation finally started, where this year several talented students appeared. Moreover, some children quickly reached the 30th rung. Knowing this, the Academy Master was very proud because he did not believe that Ling Feng's influence was so great and it can motivate children to become strong and enter the high-level Ling Wu Academy. While below suddenly appeared someone named Wu Yu, whose arrival here is to riot and take revenge on the Master because the Master had thrown him away. And it turns out that now Wu Yu is hanging by one of the hidden academies on the Shenwu continent, where it was the reason Master used to throw him out of the academy because Wu Yu was a delinquent and liked to make trouble. Therefore, because Master was not strong with such behavior, Master couldn't help but expel him. Wu Yu's arrival here was to see if there were any outstanding disciples in this academy. Because of the rumors, there was one relatively strong disciple. But after an hour of being here, Wu Yu thought that the rumors were hoaxes because none of the students looked strong. Meanwhile, several families from the Ling Wu Academy who saw Wu Yu's presence here intended to take revenge, because in the past Wu Yu made troubled several families. Instead of being afraid here, Wu Yu took the Ao family to a duel. But he, who didn't fight, chose his pet, the leopard, who would pass him by. The tiger, who has a high level, managed to defeat the Ao family. Meanwhile, Master, who saw that Wu Yu was going to make a mess, got angry and asked to stop it. However, even though the Master is angry here, He cannot fight because a master is fighting someone, it is an offense. Meanwhile, Wu Yu, who knew from the start, did not intend to fight the master, but rather the arrival of the excision was to bring down all the disciples who had been above to fall below. Then Ling Feng, who had just arrived and saw this, was annoyed because that person was imitating him. In the end, to finish this, he asked permission from the master to handle it. Then after getting permission, Ling Feng asked the lion to fight the tiger. Because the lion was too strong, the leopard was easily defeated. On the side of Wu Yu, who was looking at it, was in disbelief and dared Ling Feng to meet him upstairs. Seeing that, Ling Feng only smiled and waited for Wu Yu to reach his limit. And it turned out that even Wu Yu was just talking a lot because Wu Yu's limit on climbing the stairs was only up to 60 steps. With a laugh, Ling Feng quickly headed upstairs and told him that he had reached the highest peak without difficulty. There Wu Yu still couldn't believe it and asked to prove it. Hearing those words, Ling Feng was a little annoyed and was about to prove it, but he didn't go up, but Ling Feng would throw it up. Let him know how it felt. However, Ling Feng's annoyance didn't end yet, because after being on top, Ling Feng ended it with a heavy thump and knocked him down. Not long after, Ling Feng was tasked with guarding the gate and would welcome some students who wanted to become alchemists. However, unexpectedly many female students came to make Ling Feng difficult. Then to reduce the number, Ling Feng will select some students by looking at their talent. It's a shame that Ling Feng thought this would go smoothly and not be troublesome, but it turned out to be the opposite. However, even though this is very difficult, Ling Feng will still be patient. And in the end, there was a female student named Zai Yun who met the requirements. But because he felt frustrated, Ling Feng asked for leave for half a month to cultivate. Ling Feng went to a remote area for a few days there. His cultivation level had increased and now Ling Feng had entered the 8th level martial master. Suddenly an unexpected attack appeared. It turned out to be an attack from a giant bird that Kun Peng often knew. Where even though the weak attack only scratched him, still Ling Feng was annoyed because he couldn't attack back because the bird was flying here and there to dodge. But here Ling Feng has no shortage of ways. He uses his flagship ability in the form of Shoot, which manages to overthrow the giant bird with just one shot of aura. Then with the aura of killing him, Ling Feng gave two choices to the bird, whether he wanted to be his pet or die here. Of course, the bird accepts being a pet and changes form to become small. Seeing this, Ling Feng was very happy because he no longer had to worry about someone strong chasing him. After finishing with this matter, Ling Feng asked the bird named King to tell him about a place that had a strong aura. Then after heading there, it turned out that the strong aura was coming from a cave. And here King can only deliver up to here because with his current inside only makes him die. All results that Ling Feng, who intends to test his guts, goes inside and sees how strong the monsters are inside. Well, that's all the discussion for today. Furthermore, the journey of Ling Feng is still very exciting and full of challenges. So for those of you who are curious about the continuation of the story, wait for the next video. Yesterday's part ended with some of the things that happened at Lingwu Academy. Then because Ling Feng felt lacking in strength, he went to a remote place to cultivate. And during the few days there, Ling Feng's realm improved drastically. Besides that, while he was there, Ling Feng felt a strong aura emerging from a cave. Curious about what monsters inhabited the place, Ling Feng started to enter the cave. Then what happens next? We see the storyline. The story continues when Ling Feng starts to enter to explore the cave. But before entering, suddenly a woman comes and gives him advice not to go inside. That woman was one of the disciples of the Lingyuan Academy named Dugu. Dugu told him that this place was forbidden and dangerous, considering that several times people who came here to collect heirlooms could not get out, because this cave is inhabited by monsters that have a high realm and are very deadly. Hearing this, Ling Feng accepted his suggestion and was about to leave here. He also thanks her for the advice. However, those words were just a lie, because even though Ling Feng knew the risk, he would still enter. Not long after, he entered this cave to look for heirlooms. When you are inside, you can see a lot of skulls there. Moreover, the deeper the aura, the stronger it is, so Dugu's words are true that there are very strong monsters inside. Not long after that, disaster came, which unexpectedly appeared a terrible monster, where the form of the monster is red blood in the form of a dragon named Blood Beast. Looking at him, Ling Feng is not afraid at all, remembering in a book he read Blood Beast has no intelligence. However, not having intelligence, Blood Beasts are known to have strong physical strength, so it would be extremely difficult for Ling Feng to be able to take down a Blood Beast. Not long after, Ling Feng started to slash, but the slash had no effect. This makes Ling Feng confused and how to defeat him. And due to thinking too hard, Ling Feng didn't realize that Blood Beast had landed an attack in the form of a fireball. This attack had a lot of effect on Ling Feng, but thanks to his physical endurance, Ling Feng managed to withstand the big attack. Next, Ling Feng attacked again and again, but unfortunately, some of the attacks he did were just in vain. But finally, he found an idea of a way to beat Blood Beast, where should he launch such a devastating attack so that the Blood Beasts cannot regenerate. Then with his mainstay attack, Ling Feng succeeded in overthrowing the Blood Beast. But here Ling Feng didn't expect that he was also injured, where as a result of the clash earlier his hand was burnt. But his Golden Kai blessing didn't make his hand seriously injured, and it was only the outside. Feeling that his energy was running out, Ling Feng immediately looked for the heirloom and then rushed out of there. Not long after that, Ling Feng finally found the heirloom he was looking for, and when holding it unexpectedly his hand was injured and his blood dripped onto a skull. Suddenly the Tenkorang issued thousands of attacks continuously and spread throughout his body. This situation made Ling Feng in pain and could only surrender. In his mind, Ling Feng said even though his body was very strong, if a deep attack like this he couldn't hold it back. And is this the end of his life? In his last seconds, Ling Feng had just remembered that this attack could be neutralized with his Golden Kai. Then in no time Ling Feng took out his Golden Kai and absorbed all the fragments to dissipate and merge into himself. The short story is 5 days later when Ling Feng is seen to have overcome the problem and come out without the slightest wound. Where during the 5 days in the cave Ling Feng learned several new abilities, and most importantly, Ling Feng managed to use the fragment manipulation ability to a very powerful attack. Even though it is not as strong as the fragment in the cave, if this attack is given to someone then it will be a fatal attack. Finally, after being here for a long time, Ling Feng intends to go home, but he won't bring King. The reason is that if he brings him home, it will make everyone restless. So it's better to ask King to be here, and if needed then he will ask her to appear. And because earlier Ling Feng got a few elixirs, Ling Feng gave him 3 bottles to speed up his cultivation. The panel changes to Ling Yu Academy, where while waiting for the arrival of Ling Feng, Teacher Yu Meng has a guest who turns out to be a senior alchemist at his old academy named Su Zai Rui. It seemed that even though they used to be masters and students, they both seemed to be enemies. This turned out to be the reason Yu Meng didn't like her. Rui always teased her. Moreover, his arrival here also intends evil for him. Therefore Teacher Yu Meng intends to expel him so that Rui will not cause trouble at this academy. However, instead of kicking him out, Rui slapped him. Seeing this, as a student here, Ling King intends to protect Master Yu Meng. It's a shame. Again, Rui isn't here. Back off instead. He boldly beats Ling King and his first student. Then the master who saw this was of course angry and asked Rui for clarification. But Rui said liar that earlier was just a misunderstanding. Of course, Ling King was angry because Rui didn't tell the truth. And at the right time, Ling Feng finally came and wanted revenge on Rui for hurting Master and Ling King. Ling Feng said he was a disciple of the Holy Mountain. Hearing this, Rui just laughed and said, if you are a disciple of Holy Mountain, prove your strength. With a smile, Ling Feng gave off a deathly aura that made Rui pause and admits it. He finally apologized for everything he did before, but just apologizing didn't make Ling Feng's anger subside. Then Ling Feng finally decided in exchange for his thanks, Ling Feng asked Rui to block his 3 attacks. Hearing this, Rui was very grateful and put on defensive alert. But what the small attack just now meant was a fragment attack, where just 1 hit left Rui in pain. Rui then asked for relief, honey, but it was not granted by Ling Feng, who continued to attack 2 more times. And from there Rui finally realized what Ling Feng said was true, that he was a disciple of the Holy Mountain. However, even though he had given the punishment earlier, it seemed that Ling Feng still felt the evil aura from Rui, for he would not let Rui leave this academy alive. After that, Ling Feng and King search for the whereabouts of Rui and are about to kill him. Coincidentally, Ling Feng also saw Wu Yu, who had come to Ling Wu Academy to get revenge on him. Seeing the situation that happened, Ling Feng had a good idea where Ling Feng would make plans to kill the 2 of them without being caught. Where he will lure Wu Yu to meet Rui, and after the 2 of them meet, Ling Feng will create an alibi that Rui is his brother. This plan, and seeing Wu Yu, Ling Feng's stupidity predicted that this plan would go smoothly. And after waiting for a long time, finally Wu Yu fell into a trap and fought with Rui, where in that battle Rui very quickly managed to kill Rui, because Wu Yu's level was now far above his level. Now after Rui has been killed, Ling Feng will start the second plan, which is to ask King to kill Wu Yu and a few of his subordinates. In the morning, rumors about Wu Yu and Rui's deaths had spread. Several people, including Master Yu Meng, were suspicious as to why their deaths seemed premeditated. Even though they were suspicious, it seemed that their doubts disappeared after they were thankful that no one was hurting this academy anymore. While on the side of Ling Feng, as if he did not know about this so as not to be suspected that he had killed them both. 3 months later, Master Yu Meng was furious as to why Ling Feng had not returned for weeks. Ling King explained that Ling Feng was on a journey to increase his cultivation, though soon there will be an annual Mo Ling competition. While in a remote place, Ling Feng finally managed to complete his training and was getting stronger. Of course, Ling Feng did this hard training because some of the students from other academies had strong people, so he could at least increase his realm to match their strength. We transfer to Ling Wu Academy, where students from the adjoining academy started arriving for the annual Mo Ling competition. It can be seen that the students are enthusiastic about this big competition, considering that several big academies have strong and invincible students. so later the match will be very exciting because many Murdochs are strong and have special abilities. And one of them is Dugu. Dugu is a woman that Ling Feng once met in the cave at the beginning of the story. Before long, the master then asked the disciples to choose one of the woods, where the wood later is to randomize who their opponents are and which round they will fight in. Seen picking up the wood, some of the disciples are showing off their strength. Their reason for doing so was obviously to make some students get scared and give up before the competition started. And during an hour of drawing, only one piece of wood remained, and to be precise, the remaining piece of wood belonged to Ling Feng, where like a hero Ling Feng appeared amidst them. Finally, after completing the thing, it's the Mo Ling competition officially opened. But before that, Ling Feng saw that several strong people possessed mysterious power, but even though he was worried, he seemed to be happy because he could fight people who were stronger than him. The first match started with Ling King against one of Mo Yunzhong's students named Ming. In this first match, Ling King was nervous, but after being cheered up by Ling Feng, Ling King became optimist. Then with his yellow weapon, Ling King began to attack and succeeded in overthrowing the disciple. In the third and 100 rounds, Ling Wu's academy experienced consecutive defeats, and the Ling Wu Academy could only hope for Ling Feng alone. After a long wait, finally, it was Ling Feng's turn. As usual, his enemies always underestimate him. And in the end, the ridicule turned around and Ling Feng managed to go down with a single punch. Ling King's next match would be against Mo Lan. In the beginning, Ling Feng was frightened because Mo Lan was cruel and terrible. But with his current strength, she must be optimistic about winning. Meanwhile, Mo Lan was optimistic about winning from the start because there was no way she could lose to a lowly person like Ling King. Without lingering for a long time, Mo Lan launched an attack with her flagship whip, but unexpectedly the attack was easily broken by Ling King. Annoyed that his attack was broken, Mo Lan continued the second attack with Daxia. But again the attack was successfully broken. Ling King's attack managed to hit Mo Lan and injure her. With that attack, Mo Lan couldn't stand up, indicating that this match was won by Ling King. The next match was Ling Feng against one of Mo Yunzhong's students named Ling Qian. In this match, Ling Feng was bored because the opponent was of a weak realm and not very strong. Hearing this, Ling Qian was angry and was about to show his strength. Long story short, the fight started when Ling Qian started tracking several attacks on Ling Feng. But several times the attack was successfully broken without the slightest injury, until finally Ling Qian, who was already annoyed, took out his mainstay ability to be able to beat Ling Feng. Unfortunately, even though it was his full ability, he was broken and Ling Feng ended with a hard blow that made Ling Qian fall. In this way, Ling Feng passed on to the next stage. 4 days had passed since the Mo Ling competition officially opened, and on the 4th day, the final round was held. In the first round, Ling King will fight Dugu, where this battle progressed swiftly due to only one strike. Ling King surrendered. Here Ling King attacked because she felt that her strength was far below his, so rather than getting hurt badly enough, it's better to give up. While Dugu's strength was also acknowledged by Ling Feng since the attack earlier was unusual, so Ling King's decision to surrender was the right choice. Next, we will not explain all the battles that took place because many names must be mentioned and various others. So we'll take the big part of the story, which of the several matches that took place began to show. Some of the people who passed were the strongest students from each academy, including Zhang Sui, Dugu, Mo Kong, and a giant tree named Shui Ling Long. What seemed to be some of the disciples that worried Ling Feng was Ling Long, because he seemed to be hiding his strength. Meanwhile, Mo Kong, who made it through this, promised Ling Feng that he would still win so he could get through it. Seeing that Ling Feng only responded with a smile. In the next match, Mo Kong will fight Long Hao. Here Mo Kong seems to underestimate Long Hao, even though Long Hao is one of the giant trees. Soon the fight started. With his powerful attack, Mo Kong made a big attack on Long Hu. Meanwhile, Long Hu issued a prefecture-level ability where the attack could parry and hit Mo Kong, causing him to be thrown far away and unconscious. And it could be seen that the giant tree's disciples were very strong. With that defeat, Mo Kong could not keep his promise to be able to fight Ling Feng. After the fight was over, then it was Ling Feng's turn to fight Zhang Sui. In this match, Zhang Sui looked different from before because she was much stronger and used weapons. So here Ling Feng has to be careful, remembering in the last match even though Ling Feng managed to beat him, but he received quite severe injuries on the inside. And in this match, Zhang Sui is determined to take revenge for his first defeat. Before long the battle began, where Zhang Sui aggressively attacked Ling Feng's manipulative attacks. Meanwhile, for the time being, Ling Feng held on while looking for a loophole to turn things around. Until one day Zhang Sui was angry and showed his true strength when a large rock appeared raining down on Ling Feng. But the attack was repulsed by the 1,000 punches that Ling Feng threw to stop the boulder. After a long time looking for an opening, Ling Feng finally found Zhang Sui's weak point and carried out his signature attack. which, with the hard blow of his stick for the second time, did Ling Feng manage to defeat Zhang Sui. Even though he lost, Zhang Sui smiled because from the start, she had suspected that Ling Feng was a strong and invincible person. At the end of the fight, Ling Feng tells Zhang Sui that he is really strong, but it's a shame your opponent is me. Everyone cheered for Ling Feng's victory, saying that the legendary Iron Scepter was indeed formidable. Then while shaking hands, Ling Feng said that Zhang Sui had grown great. Ling Feng gave the Iron Scepter as a gift. But Zhang Sui refused on the grounds that the scepter really suited Ling Feng's nickname. Some among the top 8 participants were wary of Ling Feng's strength because he would be a very difficult opponent later on. They had also just realized that Ling Feng was a true martial master. Continue on the 6th day, Du Gu vs Sun Tian. The moment the match started, instantly Sun Tian immediately used his speed to charge toward Du Gu. Du Gu still didn't move and played his instrument as assault. The attack that Du Gu launched was successfully cut down by Sun Tian. Even he could get closer to the place from Du Gu. Du Gu immediately used high-level techniques to put some distance between them. Sun Tian unleashed a powerful tornado and knocked Du Gu into a corner. It was finally because of that Du Gu finally started to stand up and use his severity power. After exhaling, Du Gu's breath directly used heaven-grade skill, Yuan Link. The loot scratches released a very strong aura ready to tear its prey. Being in the position Sun Tian also not to be outdone, he used his strongest technique to end the fight here. To his surprise, the attack was penetrated easily by Du Gu's technique. Not only that, Soul Song Tier 2's chaotic attack managed to break through Sun Tian's defense until it was blown out of the arena. Consequences of exiting the arena. According to the battle, the winner in today's match is Du Gu. From a distance, Ling Feng, who saw it, was deeply impressed by Du Gu's ability. He said that she really deserved to be the #1 disciple. The other participants also thought so. They didn't expect that Du Gu could really pass to the next round. Now it's Lai Xuan versus Lang Zhu's turn. This was a very interesting match. Old immortal Lai Xuan immediately opened an attack with his lucky arrow, but quickly Lang Zhu sped up and easily dodged the attack. Not only did Lang Zhu dodge it, but it could also turn the arrow toward Lai Xuan. Of course, seeing that his attack was countered so easily, Lai Xuan, who was provoked by Lang Zhu's words, immediately attacked using his strongest Tier 1 attack, Remnant Arrow. The bow with a green aura emitting enormously shot out from the arrow towards Lang Zhu's direction. Instantly, the huge arrow exploded and covered the area there. Then, surprisingly, from behind her, Lang Zhu thrust his sword toward Lai Xuan's neck. She was surprised that he didn't dodge the attack because that's why when there was smoke, he lost his track and now Lang Zhu could be behind her. Because he couldn't move anymore, Lai Xuan finally gave up, so Lang Zhu passed the next round. Before leaving the arena, Lang Zhu said that if I don't fight seriously then I will lose, therefore he can win the fight. The next round was Shui's match against Lai Ju. Without further ado, Lai Ju immediately used the Dipper Slash technique at Shui's direction. Shui, who previously knew of this technique, easily dodged and jumped to counterattack with that spear. A huge explosion occurred in the arena. Luckily, Lai Ju managed to dodge the attack and now he will break through to the next level, namely Demi-Martial Spirit, to be able to fight against Shui. By being at this level, he had become the strongest fighter in Lingwu. Lai Ju immediately swung his sword and sent Shui flying backward. After doing that, he immediately jumps up with a very powerful strike to end this fight. But Lai Ju was surprisingly blown away by some strange power. It turned out to be a trump card hidden by Shui. Even here, it can be seen that his level is Demi-Martial Spirit. Of course, seeing that Lai Ju immediately released a huge aura and focused the aura into his sword to cut down Shui. It seems that Shui can match his strength and speed, so it looks like the fight is so even. In the end, Lai Ju, who was cornered, had to forcefully use pills to break through to the next level. With Lai Ju's extremely fiery aura now having reached the combat soul level, this meant that his level was already very different from Shui, who was still below him. Lai Ju explained that this was the right time to show off because previously he had been preparing for a long time. Realizing that the strength of the opponent was very different, Shui willy-nilly had to finish this match with his hidden technique, namely the Heaven Grade. Then the two of them fought an attack that was so big that it shook this big arena. The intense pressure between them was palpable, but Lai Ju was surprisingly unable to match Shui's Heaven Grade skill. As a result, the attack penetrated his chest and he could not continue the fight. Shui explained that although his level is combat soul level, his experience is only a little. Even if he gives 10 chances, the probability of Lai Ju's victory is only a few percent. The next battle is Ling Feng against Long Hao. This battle is no less interesting than Shui and Lai Ju, because previously, Long Hao with just 3 attacks could win the match. Then everyone immediately made the debate. Is Ling Feng able to fight Long Hao? As usual, Ling Feng, who got a bit of a sneer, immediately broke the atmosphere by provoking Long Hao. Receiving such insults enraged Long Hao and would end him with that death blow. When throwing punches, it had a fiery red aura. Surprisingly, Ling Feng was able to block it several times with ease. Ling Feng provoked Long Hao again to use his axe. Because Ling Feng wanted it happily, Long Hao used his axe to attack. On the other hand, Ling Feng would also use his iron to fight. A huge clash broke out between them. Even the axe slashes almost there hit Ling Feng. Realizing that the enemy possessed formidable strength, Ling Feng immediately displayed the strength of a level 5 combat master. A dark green aura appeared in his hand and immediately launched the Dragon Flame Sword skill. This attack succeeded in destroying Long Hao's amazing skill, but Ling Feng's skill was truly deadly. As a result, the attack left Long Hao seriously injured. Even though his body was heavily injured, Long Hao revived again and emitted an enormous aura, intimidating everyone present. He swung the axe erratically, but Ling Feng was able to block it several times, and it seems that this time Ling Feng was pressured by the attack. Then to end, Ling Feng displayed a spirit grade skill, the Soul Engulfing skill. The yellow light swiftly pierced through Long Hao's super strong axe. Unexpectedly, the attack reached Long Hao's body, thus he couldn't continue fighting any longer and fell into a faint. So Ling Feng can advance to the semi-finals. Wang Yu, who saw that technique, felt shocked and realized that the person he was fighting in the wasteland was Ling Feng. But he still couldn't imagine that the strength was so different from before. Everyone immediately cheered for Ling Feng's victory, because he was really crazy to beat the strongest person. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Shui hopes that Ling Feng's strength is not only this. If it is, then I will be disappointed. Furthermore, it was announced who would fight in the semifinals. This time, the first match was Du Gu against Lang Zhu or Cold Blood. As for Shui's final fight against Ling Feng, okay, the story ends here first, then the semifinal battle will start. Of the 4 contestants, Ling Feng will face the strongest, namely Shui. Then how their fight goes, we will continue in the next video. In the previous part, Ling Feng gone through some big problems, then he also got some alchemy powers, and at that time, he also had to take part in a martial arts competition against several academies, and as you all know, Ling Feng managed to qualify for the semi-final round. His opponent was Shui. Shui is a mysterious participant who is very strong. Will Ling Feng be able to win this competition? Soon let's begin the storyline. The story continues from the semi-final begins, where Du Gu fights Cold Blood. As expected, women, they were both very powerful. In the beginning, Cold Blood immediately used the Earth skill Insane Sword, while Du Gu also used his ability called Soul Disturbing Music. The first clash of attacks was intense, but the two were evenly matched. Then the two Cold Bloods counterattacked and immediately closed in. Unfortunately, Du Gu has a much stronger ability called Skeleton Blood. There appeared a skull aura that made Cold Blood hurt when it approached. And at the end, before the attack hit Du Gu, Cold Blood had to fall and Du Gu advanced to the finals. Meanwhile, on Du Gu's side, although he won, he was also seriously injured, because she didn't expect Cold Blood to have such a powerful attack that it made him vomit blood. Meanwhile, before starting the semifinal match, Ling Feng met Du Gu and gave him a healing pie. Then not long after the semi-finals between Ling Feng and Shui Ling Long started. As it was thought from the start they were merciless and attacked each other, it can be seen from the several attacks that each carried out that did not have much difference in strength. One day, finally Shui Ling Long got angry and took out his true abilities. Where would he use weapons against Ling Feng? While Ling Feng, who did not want to lose, also used his reliable iron to stop Shui Ling Long's attack. But here it seems that the strong attack launched by Shui Ling Long managed to crack his iron staff. Seeing this, Shui Ling Long smiled and said, "You can't fight anymore without a weapon." With a smile, Ling Feng also said so, and surprisingly suddenly Ling Feng succeeded in destroying Shui Ling Long's weapon in an instant. But it turns out that the weapon was just a replica, because if the weapon is destroyed then the shape of the original weapon will be seen. Even so, Ling Feng was not afraid in the slightest and launched a powerful attack that severely injured Shui Ling Long. But apparently, it wasn't over yet, because it turned out that Shui Ling Long still had hidden abilities. And it turned out that his original realm was now the Soul Combat realm. While the spectators, including dance supporter Ling Feng, were speechless as their realm was at a distant level, they were a bit pessimistic that Ling Feng couldn't win against Shui Ling Long. As they had expected, the attack Shui Ling Long had launched in the Combat Soul realm was strong enough to seriously injure Ling Feng. But even so, this did not make Ling Feng give up and will use his flagship move, where is his mainstay ability called Spirit Incineration Sword, where suddenly two fireballs appeared from Ling Feng's hands and immediately threw them at Shui Ling Long. It's a shame that even though this was Ling Feng's mainstay of combat, the attack was successfully broken and Shui Ling Long managed to land an attack that left a hole in one hand. But at the same time, suddenly a small but deadly attack was right in front of Shui Ling Long's eyes. What turned out to be the ability of the fireball just now was just a diversion, because the main attack was a small fire that had been in front of him. In this way, Shui Ling Long finally gave up and lost, remembering that if he continues, the wound that Kaken will receive is quite severe. After the semifinals are completed, then the finals will begin soon, where Ling Feng will fight Dugu. Meanwhile, the spirit elder who saw this was very happy and was about to ask Ling Feng to become his disciple. However, this was not allowed by Master Yun Meng and would lead Ling Feng to flee from there. Teacher Yun Meng said that Ling Feng resigned. Knowing this, the spirit elder was astonished. Meanwhile, Master also couldn't say much because it was Ling Feng's decision. And as a result, because Ling Feng withdrew, Dugu would become the victor in the annual mulling competition. Meanwhile, on Ling Feng's side, he still wanted to fight, but since it was Teacher Yu Meng's decision, he would follow him. While the elders of the Spirit Warriors still wanted to recruit Ling Feng as their apprentice, it was denied by Master Yu Meng that Ling Feng would become Ling Wu's apprentice and would become the Master Alchemist here. Now, because of several problems that occurred, Ling Feng finally spoke that for now, he doesn't want to master Spirit. But one day if he wants to learn it, then he will meet him. Hearing that, the elder Spirit Warrior was very happy and would be waiting for him. After the matter was over, the master asked Ling Feng how he got the Heaven Dance Spirit ability. Here Ling Feng explains that he obtained this ability in a cave that was said to have evil monsters inside, where after defeating the Blood Beast he managed to gain new abilities and learn several things there. In addition, the master also informed me that 2 weeks later the Holy Flame would be opened. Holy Flame itself is a place where one can improve themselves by defeating beasts in a limited time. But unfortunately, only a certain number of disciples can go there, which meant Ling Feng couldn't keep up with the hunt. However, here Ling Feng still insisted on going there, and here he was offering some earth pill recipes to master if he would allow himself to join the hunt in the Holy Flame land. It was late at night due to the 2 weeks of hunting in the Holy Fake lands. Ling Feng finally called King here to take care of his older sister, but this was not enough. For that, Ling Feng would give King and the Lion the Golden Stone so they could upgrade their realms. Meanwhile, Ling King will be taught high-grade heaven skills. In the next 2 weeks, finally, the gate to the Holy Flame has been opened, where there were seen several academy elders come there to accompany some of their best students to hone their strength in that place. And some of the disciples who were going to the Holy Flame were Dugu, Mukong, and Ling King. And it turns out that Ling Feng is not allowed to come, but because Ling Feng is stubborn, he secretly follows and will go alone and not follow their crowd. Suddenly Ling Feng was teleported to a reservoir, and in the middle of it was a very powerful red bird monster. Meanwhile, the red bird monster saw someone in its territory defending itself. However, Ling Feng easily managed to beat back. Feeling belittled, the red bird attacked again with a flash of lightning from its wings. Unfortunately, his attack failed because Ling Feng managed to catch the red bird. And when he looked closely, Ling Feng was surprised to find that his attack had no effect because this red bird was wearing holy armor. And from some of the data that was read earlier, these holy clothes entered the level of the Holy King Spirit. Knowing this, of course, Ling Feng intends to take the sacred clothes from the red bird. Then, because the red bird did not accept it, the bird released a very large fireball ability called For Sun Flame Fire. Instead of dodging, Ling Feng caught it and made the attack his ability. But it turns out that taming this ability is not easy, especially since the effect of the attack hurts his inner body. While in this state, the red bird launched another attack to cancel Ling Feng from taking his ability. In this state, Ling Feng was completely cornered, but at least he managed to take down the crimson bird so that it would not interfere with taming the four sun flame fire. Not long after struggling with the attack for a long time, Ling Feng finally managed to master it. When the bird saw that Ling Feng managed to master it, immediately fled from this area, because he didn't want his clothes to be taken by him. It's a shame what the bird did was just in vain, because quickly Ling Feng succeeded in front of him and carried out an attack to overthrow the red bird. However, even in a difficult condition, the red bird did not let his sacred clothes be taken away. Seeing this, Ling Feng got angry and made a final attack which succeeded in making the surrendering bird surrender. But it turned out to be a lie because the red bird was looking for a gap to escape, and because Ling Feng was off guard, the weak bird finally managed to escape. But unexpectedly, Ling Feng was in front of Nei and could fly. Knowing this, the red bird was shocked, and why can a human being fly? Ling Feng explained that he wasn't flying but he was treading on a flying leaf, so he could hover as if he were flying. As a result, with all that, finally, the red bird gave up because he could no longer run away. However, when he went to meet the bird, suddenly from behind several bandits attacked him. The bandit said that this herb garden was ours, so anyone who sets foot here is our enemy. Knowing this, Ling Feng apologized and immediately left, but it was from behind that person attacked him. Luckily, with his current skills, he was able to avoid them. Then Ling Feng asked the red bird to cooperate because there was no way he could defeat the three bandits. There would be a battle where the scarlet bird would fight two low-level bandits and Ling Feng would fight the boss of the bandits. We'll see if red bird can take down both low-level bandits in an instant. Whereas Ling Feng looked troubled because the bandit realm was higher than himself. Finally, because of the difference in levels, the bandit boss managed to break one of Ling Feng's arms. As usual, even though his one hand was badly injured here, Ling Feng was still able to fight the bandit in balance. It can be seen that even here Ling Feng managed to keep up with him, but with his current condition, it was impossible to beat the bandit boss. But finally, the conditions turned around when the red bird helped him fight. And soon, thanks to their combination, the two of them finally succeeded in overthrowing the bandit boss. Then after that, Ling Feng took the overpower bowl that was brought by the bandit boss, where the ability of this bowl can reflect attacks and can make the attack multiply. Apart from that, Ling Feng also obtained a storage item. Upon hearing that Ling Feng and the bird would buy this herb garden in half. With the storage ring, the two of them would harvest the herbs there and split the loot equally. Because they are so happy to harvest herbs here, they are exhausted. And not far away, several holy flame beasts flocked and came towards Ling Feng and the crimson bird. Seeing this, Ling Feng was very frightened because the realm of the monster level was very far away. Moreover, there were so many of them. But even so, they managed to strike back and defeat all the beasts. Now, because of the serious injuries received due to the battle, Ling Feng prepared several bottles of healing to treat himself. However, before Ling Feng drank the healing bottle, the red bird suddenly betrayed and intended to marry him. It seems that this red bird still can't accept it and will fight and take some of the items brought by Ling Feng. It's a shame what he did only put the red bird in danger, because from the start Ling Feng had already realized that, so to keep the red bird from attacking, he had already prepared an item to subvert it. And as a result, the bird lost again and became a prisoner of Ling Feng. And maybe because here Ling Feng is fed up with the red bird, he asks to give him the holy clothes. If he refuses, then he will burn them for dinner. Here the frightened red bird finally told him that he could not give the sacred clothes because it was embedded and could not be removed. Even if he was killed, the sacred clothes would also disappear. Knowing that explanation, finally, Ling Feng asked the others and asked the red bird to find a treasured place of high value. The panel moves to a place in the meadow, where three people who look badly injured are carrying bottles of dew aura. It was said that the aura dew bottle could heal wounds but also increase strength. However, before the three people drank the healing medicine, they were suddenly attacked by Ling Feng and the red bird. Of course here, Ling Feng will take the medicine to drink, considering that his body is now seriously injured. Apart from that, Ling Feng also gives medicine to the bird so that it can recover from its wounds, considering that now the bird is his pet. But again, the bird's hilarious behavior happened. After drinking the dew aura, he became strong and intended to attack Ling Feng. Unfortunately, Ling Feng also grew stronger, and as a result, the bird was beaten up. Furthermore, after the fight for so long, they continued their journey, where they headed to a treasure vault that was only open once a few months. When they were there, the two of them sneaked into it, but it seemed that everyone gathered in the boring library, because in their first life, Ling Feng had read all the books in this library. But the main goal is not here but at the peak of this sacred love, where the red bird tells there is a storage of rare and expensive weapons. When he got there, it turned out that two people were injured. It seems that the two people were injured because they were doing battle, and this condition was used by Ling Feng to beat them up. because this was a past moment, considering that the two people were in a different realm from him. So this condition is very past to fight them. The story still focuses on the fight between Ling Feng and the two youths from the Sidu family. One of the disciples instantly used his ultimate technique to kill Ling Feng, and that annoying the red bird. As a result of the dark palm technique, the red bird was easily defeated, but Ling Feng was not. He immediately used an attack from a strange object which caused the person to bounce off. Then from behind, the red bird immediately hit the young man and immediately fainted. Seeing that Ling Feng managed to defeat two members of the Sidu Kong family, the person who gave Ling Feng the mission immediately thanked him. He said that there would be many gifts for him. With an evil glare, Ling Feng and the red bird immediately beat the person to take all of his possessions and of course the property of the Sidu Kong family. With great joy, Ling Feng and the red bird immediately took all the treasures in the castle. Even though there were some items that were less valuable, Ling Feng still took them and was going to sell them later. Then while walking down the hall, Ling Feng found a strange stone that had level 9. Without thinking, Ling Feng immediately tried to take it, but to his surprise, the stone had a mass of 1,500 kilograms. The crazier thing is that the more you lift the stone, the heavier it gets. However, Ling Feng managed to get this stone. Later it will be used for certain occasions. With pleasure mixed with joy, the two of them headed to the third temple. Elsewhere there are two young men who failed to find the precious treasure in the second temple, so they hoped to get the precious treasure in this third castle. When they arrived at the entrance, the two of them were immediately stopped by the guard. The guard said that if the young master of the Lang family is inside, then leave if you don't want to die. Suddenly hearing that made the two of them immediately panic, because Lang was a cultivation high level. Not only that the Lang family is at a position higher than the 8 families, so fighting this person is tantamount to suicide. Then from behind, Ling Feng immediately cut off the conversation between the two of them. He said whether the Lang family could go against the rest of the world, the sacred temple's inheritance depended on talent, not identity. He did this in order to provoke the guard into anger, and in the end, the plan worked and Ling Feng was beaten until he was knocked quite far from that place. Here Ling Feng pretended to be weak. Lang Rong walked out of the castle. Because of the lecture, two young men were previously determined to take the treasure from this castle. Before entering the castle, they both have to pass through a barrier first. Upon approaching the barrier and thrusting a hand into the barrier, his hand was surprisingly injured. But surprisingly, some people who are after treasure can enter the portal. There was nothing inside, which made the treasure hunters confused. And surprisingly, the red bird from Ling Feng immediately beat up the treasure hunters. And when you look at it in more detail, it turns out that it was all a trap from Ling Feng. Meanwhile, Ling Feng was laughing with joy looking at all the battered treasure hunters, and yet no one realized that it was a trap from Ling Feng alone. Not long after, finally, Lang Rong appeared from a different door. Immediately, the white-haired youth immediately panicked because the aura from this Lang was very terrible. When he saw chaos here, Lang was surprised who killed his servant. The white-haired youth firmly replied that it was he who killed the servant. Even though at first they already knew the limit of what kind of strength Lang was, the white-haired youth had no choice but to fight. He immediately ordered everyone on his side to attack Lang. Of course, Lang directly pointed out the inheritance he had acquired. What will be shown this time is the level up skill. Lang direct used the slash that emerged from his hand to crazily hit the treasure hunters. Surprisingly, everyone who challenged him at that time was immediately defeated by all of them. After seeing Lang's power level, the red bird realized that Lang was probably already at the near combat king level. Hearing this, Ling Feng was also not surprised, and he realized that his current level would probably be hard pressed to beat that person. Then, not wanting to waste his precious pills, Ling Feng immediately ate all of them. Then finally Lang realized that there was still one more person who was still alive and was now playing dead. Upon discovering this, V immediately rushed to use his skill to leave this place. But it's a pity that Lang easily caught up with him. At that time, Ling Feng immediately pushed away Lang with his fist. And it's true that Lang was immediately blown away. Far enough. He praised the strength of Ling Feng, who could use taijutsu. Lang asked him how to train the body to such an extent. If Ling Feng deigns to tell him, then I promise not to kill you. From the description, Ling Feng realized that this person was truly strong. So getting out of here is very difficult and you might get seriously injured. The next attack from Lang was also very strong. At that time it was Ling Feng who tried to block it with his spiritual skill, but his strength was not strong enough to withstand the fierceness of the attack. As a result, Ling Feng was seriously injured and asked Rooster to help him fight. The Crimson Bird, without thinking about Ling Feng, immediately left the place. Feeling betrayed by Ling Feng immediately mentioning where the Red Bird came from, it turned out that the Red Bird was from the Rosefinch clan. Immediately hearing that, Lang was very interested and wanted to make him a pet. Without further ado, Lang directly aimed at the Red Bird with the armor of his sex heritage. It was clear that the Red Bird didn't want Lang to keep him as a pet. He immediately ran fast to escape Lang's target. Seeing that situation, Ling Feng hurried to leave quietly. It seemed that because the bird didn't want to be alone, he immediately approached Ling Feng to help him get away from this person's pursuit. Because it's like this, like it or not, Ling Feng and the red bird must be able to defeat Ling. Otherwise, there is no other way to get out of this castle. Then Ling Feng directly used the Phoenix Dagger and Incineration Sword combo attack toward the enemy. Meanwhile, Ling also doesn't want to be outdone by using the Silver Moon Wheel skill. Ling Feng's attack was easily torn apart with that technique. Then Ling Feng gave Ling Feng one more choice, but he rejected it and provoked him again to come closer. After Ling drew near, Ling Feng immediately used his spiritual strength. The skill this time was very strong. From his head a very strong light appeared on Ling. However, if you look at this picture, it is clear that Ling can block the attack from Ling Feng with the purple weapon. Ling's anger was finally uncontrollable and now he would kill Ling Feng no matter what. Ling immediately cast a very powerful technique, with this fist able to throw Ling Feng to hit the big rocks there. Seen there, Ling Feng is helpless and looks ridiculous. Not only was Ling Feng dropped by the marrying bird, but he also managed to be paralyzed by his various powerful skills. Let's move on from Ling Feng's side first. At this time, he still looks weak and feels pain in his stomach. But the good news here is that if it weren't for this golden body, then surely if he was hit by an attack like that, he would lose. Then Ling Feng thought of a way to break through this boundary of his body with the few pills he ate before. Right now he was trying really hard to break through to the next level, to break through my boundary. After the aura exploded, Ling Feng was now at the combat soul level. But even so, his level is still 8 levels different from Ling. In fact, Ling Feng already knew this, because the goal of breaking through this level was to be able to increase his running speed. However, when going through this place, surprisingly there was a big wave that covered the road. This powerful and deadly wave belongs to Ling. Ling said with this barrier then Ling Feng could no longer escape. Realizing that he couldn't get out of this place, Ling Feng intended to give gifts to Ling. Of course, Ling could no longer believe his words, but somehow suddenly Ling Feng threw something at him. And what Ling Feng threw was a stone that he previously found in the second castle. After being thrown, the stone became bigger and bigger. Ling, who saw that, couldn't do anything else. Too bad he didn't practice the power of Taijutsu, so it was impossible to deal with this boulder. Then with all his strength, Ling Feng immediately dropped a 27,500 stones on Ling's head. Seeing that made the red bird wonder how Ling Feng could come up with such an idea. But it wasn't long before Ling Feng fell to the ground after his energy was drained a lot. Now I'm really tired and need pills to heal the wound. Even though he was injured like that, Ling Feng was still able to stand. This time he immediately took Ling's purple weapon. This purple colored stone is a very powerful weapon, and it will be worth losing the precious stone. Next, since Ling has been defeated, we must now take all of his possessions. Sin changes to the third castle, where several members of the white-haired people are confused as to what happened here and who took all the treasures in this castle. The white-haired young man even said that all the treasure had been taken by Ling, even though we already know that the mastermind behind all this was Ling Feng. With this thing, everything will be blamed on Lang Rukong. After plundering all the treasures in the castle, Ling Feng was visited by the cyan bird from Ling King. Knowing that only the cyan bird was coming, Ling Feng was very surprised at what actually happened to Ling King. Then the cyan bird explained what happened earlier. After parting ways with Ling Feng, Ling Qin arrived at a place that was suspected to be the Holy Flame. That place was so beautiful. The big problem started after the arrival of one of the youths from the Cow family. The youth tried to seduce Ling King and intended to make him a servant. Luckily, all of that was stopped by Dugu, who immediately made the boy battered. Even though Dugu already knew the risks of being dealt with by the Cow family, he didn't want fellow fellowships to be treated like that. After being battered by the girl, the young man from the Cow family immediately went and asked for help from the other disciples to teach Ling King and Dugu a lesson. Starting from there, their journey became arduous because several disciples from the Cow family started hunting for it for several days. As a result, all the pills that had been brought were gone, and now they couldn't heal the wound. As there was no way to escape the Cow family's pursuit, Dugu advised Ling King to leave him in this place by using the cyan bird. But Ling King could not leave Dugu. Then she asked the cyan bird to tell Ling Feng about this incident. That was the origin of why only the cyan bird came to Ling Feng. When hearing that from the bird, Ling Feng's anger boiled over, his aura became even bigger, and he said that I will kill all of the Cow family no matter what. Of course, the crimson bird stopped Ling Feng because the entire Cow family had average combat soul level disciples. Beating them head-on was simply suicide. If you want to kill all of them, then Ling Feng will have to kill them one by one without being caught. That was all Ling Feng could do this time. Uncontrollable emotions could not make Ling Feng think clearly. What he was thinking right now was that he needed strength greater than his current strength. His current choice was only on the reversing skill. This skill can strengthen itself in just a few moments, but the side effects are very deadly, namely that he might die after using this power. Without thinking about the side effects, Ling Feng immediately activated the skill. The aura within his body was now getting bigger and crazier. His current level had already reached the 9th level. The eyes of Ling Feng looked like a bloodthirsty demon ready to devour its prey. Whereas the place where Ling King and Dugu were cornered and there was no escape from this cliff, what awaited them now was only death. To make matters worse, they had been surrounded by a few disciples from the Cao family. Despite having no chance of winning, Dugu still tries to attack them all with his remaining strength. Because his energy was almost depleted, some of the techniques Dugu threw out could easily be destroyed by that disciple. Even Dugu was seriously injured from a punch from one of the youths there. Because he was no longer able to hold back all of this, Dugu intended to end his life like that. Later, Ling Feng would take his revenge on all the disciples of the Cao family. Before he could do that, luckily, Ling Feng was here quickly thanks to Ling's purple weapon, which now belongs to him. From above, Ling Feng with his demon eye mode directly slaughtered one of the youths there with his youth. And seeing Ling King and Dugu get hurt like that made Ling Feng go crazy again. On the other hand, the disciples of the Cao family noticed that the opponent was now above their level, but Ling Feng was alone. So they directly attacked Ling Feng simultaneously without the slightest hesitation. But Ling Feng easily sped up and slaughtered the youths one by one. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 disciples have been defeated. With all of that, finally, the situation became calm again. Ling Feng went straight to Ling King to give him the remedial medicine. Ling Feng said to leave everything to me. I will kill all the disciples of the Cao family who are in the castle. Before leaving, Ling Feng asked the Red Bird to look after Ling King and Dugu. It didn't take long for Ling Feng to go straight to the Cao family base, and there were 40 disciples on alert. However, from above, Ling Feng directly dropped the previous boulder onto that spot. As a result of the fall of such a heavy stone that day, 58 disciples in the secret land of the Holy Flame who was fond of committing crimes were killed by Ling Feng. Well, that's all for the story. Next time we will see that Ling Feng has to accept the consequences of using this skill. Can Ling Feng survive? You guys just wait for the next part. Today we are still continuing the story of Extreme God. Yesterday's part, Ling Feng defeated one of the strongest people named Lang Rukong. After successfully defeating him, he received news that Ling King and Dugu were surrounded by the Cao family. Immediately, Ling Feng, who no longer had any strength, used a reversing skill which made him rise to combat soul level 9. The side effect was that he would die if his body was not strong enough to withstand the pain. Then until finally, he could single-handedly defeat the Cao family. Then how the continuation of the story? Let's begin. The story starts with the commotion made by Ling Feng. Not long after Ling Feng killed all the disciples of the Cao family, the news spread throughout the entire sect. However, the name of the killer is unknown. Even so, all the sects began to be wary of these monsters because they might also be targeted just like the Cao family and Lang Rukong. Sin changed to the Holy Flame land. After clearing things up, Ling Feng went straight to Ling King and Dugu who were resting. Ling Feng said now we have to find a place to hide first, but suddenly he immediately fell down and felt extreme fear. Of course, Ling King and Dugu panicked because she didn't know what had happened to Ling Feng. The Red Bird explains that this is a side effect of using the reversing skill, thus making the passage broken. Of course, this is a bad thing. Passages cannot be restored through external assistance if the flow has been reversed. Then suddenly Ling Feng vomited a lot of blood which made Ling King and Dugu scared because Ling Feng was really on the verge of death. While crying, Ling King hugged Ling Feng and said that he would be fine. Then slowly the energy started to disappear from his body and the heart of Ling Feng started to stop. Immediately, Ling King and Dugu, who couldn't do anything, could only cry over Ling Feng's departure. Then all of a sudden we were immediately diverted to a very quiet place in the glowing yellow waters. Somehow suddenly at that place, there was Ling Feng who was lying limp there. And to his surprise, Ling Feng wasn't dead yet. He was able to wake up and was shocked by his current condition. I should have died, so why could I be in this place? After some thought, Ling Feng realized that this place was the posthumous world. This was Ling Feng's Sea of Souls. This ocean is known as super water. Ling Feng wondered, am I still alive? Then Ling Feng realized that this super water had many magical effects. If he bathed here, then this super water could save him. On the other hand, Ling King still could not accept the death of his younger brother. She always hugs Ling Feng so he can come back to life. At that sadness, suddenly, from Ling Feng's body, a very strong aura appeared, blowing them both away. Suddenly Ling Feng meditated with an extremely strong aura in the area. Seeing Ling Feng still standing like that made Ling King feel very happy and tried to touch him, but the aura was extremely strong and could make Ling King hurt. Meanwhile, the Red Bird was very surprised by this incident because suddenly Ling Feng was able to recover himself. According to the 3000 Holly Mount scrolls, all those who have died cannot cultivate after using a reversing skill. But with his own eyes, the red bird saw for himself that the passages from Ling Feng could come back again, even if in a different form, or you could say transformation. Ling Feng himself had just realized in his heart that this skill wasn't forbidden, but instead, it was a technique that renovated passages. This means that all levels owned by Ling Feng have disappeared and started all over again. Then to restore all those levels, Ling Feng must attack Kai more and more from this place, seeing that Ling King and the others also tried to break through to the next level. After a full day of meditation, Ling King rises to the 9th level of Combat Master, while Dugu is now at the 4th level of the Combat Soul. After all the levels have increased, they are surprised when Ling Feng is back to normal and is doing ridiculous things like before. His current level is still at the Combat Soul level 4. Feeling that all conditions have improved, Ling Feng tells everyone not to wander alone, because from here the enemy will target all of us. So for that, Ling Feng asked Dugu and Ling King to train to get stronger. Meanwhile, Ling Feng would make pills and re-enhance the spirit level alchemist first. Hearing this, the Crimson Bird was very surprised because Ling Feng was an expert in all fields. It didn't take long for Ling Feng to make a purple pill to break through to the spirit level. The Crimson Bird asked Ling Feng to make aura-boosting pills so that way they could become strong quickly. The Red Bird immediately looked for the material so that Ling Feng could directly make it. Shortly after the Crimson Bird came back, Ling Feng had surprisingly produced about 15 kinds of high-grade pills. Finding this precious item, the Red Bird said that pill can be sold at the auction, which will last for several days, so they can get a lot of money. Hearing the word currency from Ling Feng immediately described currency, and he intended to make more to sell in the auction. A few days later, Ling Feng and the bird arrived at the secret land of Huo City's Holy Flame. Meanwhile, Ling King and Dugu will be looking for lodging in this city. Arriving at the auction, Ling Feng was stopped by the guard there, but after Ling Feng said that he was selling pills there, finally Ling Feng was invited to enter. As usual, Ling Feng was initially underestimated by the owner of the auction, Su Zioru. Ling Feng asks Zioru to buy all these pills. After Ling Feng looked at the pill, she was very surprised because all of these pills were peak spirit grade. Zioru thought that this young man had dug up an alchemist's grave, but after Ling Feng reveals that he is the maker, makes Zioru is shocked. At first, Zioru tried to tempt Ling Feng into giving a low price, but after seeing the boy's aura she couldn't move and agreed to the deal. To mark this agreement, Zioru gave a token as a sign that they had worked together. 2 days later, the grand auction begins. After the officer took out all the pills in the city, making all the auction participants felt surprised at how could these peak level pills be traded. Without thinking, all the participants immediately gave high marks for the pill, and the pill finally sold for 20,000 herbs. Of course, seeing that in person made Ling Feng twinkle because earning that much money didn't take long. Not only that, in the second sale and when the total revenue Ling Feng generated reached 300,000 aura herbs, which was a great accomplishment for Ling Feng after living like this for so long. After getting the money, he intends to make more pills in the future. Then in the last event, we are shown the last item that is so valuable. The item is the bone of the holy beast. This item can increase the strength of up to 1 to 2 fighters. Of course, seeing that Ling Feng intends to buy it because with this item he can make the next high-level pill. Because this item is very rare, many participants mentioned the price is up to 120,000 herbal aura. The Marang bird immediately told Ling Feng to buy the item for 130,000 herbs. But unexpectedly, Ling Feng gave 300,000 aura herbs instead. That way no one can beat that price, that way the item officially belongs to Ling Feng. But the auction money he got before was gone. Of course, at the end, he was scolded by Dugu and Ling King, but they couldn't do anything about it because it all belonged to Ling Feng. Then Ling Feng asked the red bird to inhale the fragrance from the bone in order to break through to the next level. Then Ling Feng would concoct high-grade pills. Slowly, he started making the pill with the parts of the holy beast. The results of making it produce pills that are extraordinarily strong, namely near earth level. Of course, Ling King and Dugu couldn't say a word seeing this, because Ling Feng was indeed a genius. 3 days later, Ling Feng immediately sold it to Zioru. Even though it was only 3 days, Ling Feng asked Zioru to sell it for 200,000 herbs. Of course, hearing that made Zioru surprised. How could he create a pill grade like this? Auction day had started, but the one who was going to directly sell the pills from Ling Feng was she herself. Seeing that, everyone was confused and wondered if that item was that special. When Zioru showed this pill, many famous families immediately flocked to buy it at a high price. One of the immediate family called lift 500,000 and 700,000. But finally, this pill was sold with 1,500,000 aura herbs. This figure was unbelievably high and made Ling Feng cry in tears because he did not expect that the pills he had made could sell at such a high price. After the auction ends, Zioru tempts Ling Feng to give him another good item. Ling Feng, who feels tempted, ends up selling some of the books that he found in the holy temple. but in return, she had to provide earth-level aura herbs. Finishing from that place, Ling Feng noticed that there were people watching him from a while ago. Ling Feng directly asked that person to show himself. It turned out that he was the director of the auction house of Huo City, Su Yun. On the other hand, Xiaoru found out that Su Yun had chased after Ling Feng. Xiaoru was restless because if Ling Feng was annoyed with that person, then it would affect Xiaoru and the Su family. What Xiaoru was afraid of was that Ling Feng was a very strong person, so Su Yun was currently in a dangerous state. And Su Yun himself had no idea how strong Ling Feng was now. Back at Ling Feng's side, he presented Su Yun with an extremely attractive offer. Su Yun asked Ling Feng to come to Flame City and would make him richer. But Ling Feng immediately rejected him on the grounds that he was not interested in the city. Receiving this humiliation enraged Su Yun and had to use force to persuade Ling Feng. A huge battle between them happened, and a huge clash of flames took place in that place. Su Yun also intended to take the technique from Ling Feng no matter what. Of course, Su Yun is very confident, because his level is near Combat King. It didn't take long for Su Yun to immediately use his strength to hunt down Ling Feng. But Ling Feng realized that there were some techniques he couldn't perform, so quickly Ling Feng used his spiritual strength to end the fight. Then with just one technique, Su Yun was instantly killed. It wasn't long after that Su Yun's corpse was brought to Xiaoru's place. She was shocked because Sun's death was due to spiritual power. She didn't expect that Ling Feng also had such a technique. Of course, with this she must be good to Ling Feng, otherwise then everything will be finished here. The next day, Ling Feng sent the red bird to meet Xiaoru. The weaver threatened Xiaoru not to follow Ling Feng anymore, otherwise Ling Feng would end the auction house of Fire City and Flame City. Of course, actually, this is not an order from Ling Feng, but this is advice from the red bird so that Xiaoru doesn't mess with Ling Feng. In 10 days, Ling Feng again refined high-grade pills. He finally refined his first-grade earth pills. This would be an interesting item to sell at auction. Seen at the auction house, Xiaoru and the other officers looked limp and waited for Ling Feng's arrival. Then when Ling Feng was here, she was very happy and immediately hugged him. When Ling Feng showed the pills this time, Xiaoru was impressed and couldn't hold back the aura from the high-grade pills. Xiaoru said that with this item then this auction house would be her first record, and she intended to make Ling Feng the mascot of the auction. Auction day has started again. Now many of the 8 prominent families attended this auction, and they hoped to find something better than the previous auction. When entering the auction, all participants were very surprised because there were so many guards there. The guardian banned persons at the near Combat King level and above from entering the auction. This is done so that there is no commotion at the auction. Then we are shown someone who is angry and intends to avenge the death of his father, none other than he named Su Hao. Su Hao intends to find out who was behind his father's murder. Then one by one Xiaoru took out 6th grade Combat King grade pills, and the pills quickly sold for 100,000 earth grade herbs. After a break, Xiaoru surprised everyone again by taking out grade 7 and 8 pills. The total revenue Ling Feng earned was 450,000 earth grade herbs. Of course, because everything has been fulfilled, Ling Feng intends to travel to other islands. The red bird said that Ling King and Dugu had already set a trap, so we won't have any trouble this time. Just once, when Ling Feng was already in the hills, suddenly Su Hao's flock and his near Combat King level men chased him and were about to kill him. But as usual, Ling Feng even provoked Su Hao by saying that he got all these pills from his ancestors. Obviously getting the insult, Su Hao was very annoyed and asked his men to kill Ling Feng right away. Even though Ling Feng could take on Su Hao, he was not strong enough to take on his subordinates who were at his higher level. Not just one, but there are 8 people at that level. Ling Feng tried to run away from those people, but the few people easily chased after him. Even Ling Feng was hit by that person's deadly attack. As far as he was concerned, luckily he was still able to stand up and try to escape. But to his surprise, the combined attack from Su Hao and his men was able to make Ling Feng helpless and fall into the hills. Su Hao immediately ordered his men to go after Ling Feng and make sure he was killed. The story continues with Ling Feng, who runs away from a family who intends to take revenge on Ling Feng, where after being hit by a thunder attack that seriously injured Ling Feng, he dodged to one of the nearby mountains, where here he would plan a counterattack against them, considering that fighting them head-on would be very difficult. But with this situation in place in the mountains, Ling Feng was confident of defeating all of them. Not far from there, the family finally arrived and started the attack. But it turns out that the place they stepped on had been given a trap by a red bird. But it turned out to be just a diversion because Ling Feng's new main attack was used just now, where he uses an item called 9-level stone, where this item can be large and weigh 50,000 kilos. With this heavy burden, Ling Feng managed to fall on them and defeat all with just one item. As usual, after defeating the enemy, they always take the luggage they have, and they found a treasure map. Knowing this, Ling Feng intends to head there. For the reason why he came to Holy Flame, there are 2 looking for expensive items and increasing his cultivation. The panel moves to a place. Where did someone tell that Su Hao and the other people were killed by someone unknown? though at that time Su Hao also brought several people who had high realms. And when analyzing this incident, it turned out that the perpetrators were almost the same as the perpetrators who disturbed various large families such as the Lang, Cao, and Su families. Of course, with this incident, Ling Feng's condition will be very dangerous, because if the three big families join forces, his life will be in danger. Sin moved from the direction of Ling Feng, who had gathered with Ling King and Dugu, where they are now heading to the transmission gate. When passing through it, they were faced with Mount Yangyang. According to the treasure map found by Ling Feng said there is a lot of treasure in this place. Suddenly their conversation stopped when there was a roar heading this way, and it turned out to be a yin-yang monster beast. Knowing this, Ling Feng was very excited and was about to launch an attack, but before that, he asked King to protect Ling King and Dugu. With his strength now, it was not long before Ling Feng held a boulder and smashed it against the yin-yang beast. With that one attack, it managed to topple the huge monster. Then after defeating the monster, Ling Feng went inside, and inside it turns out there is a yin-yang hot spring. Of course, seeing him, Ling Feng and the others will be resting here, because playing in this pool can increase cultivation, considering that the water content in this pool has pure Kai. After an hour of soaking in hot water, they then continued their journey. And it's interesting that after soaking there, his gold body has evolved into a yin-yang body. This way at least he can hold about 50,000 kilograms. Meanwhile, when Dugu and Ling King were walking in the surrounding area, the two of them saw a flying boat nearby. Intrigued by this, they went inside and found out why this ship could fly and who moved it. When inside, it turns out that there is a luminous box guarded by a golden dragon. But it turns out that the golden dragon is just an illusion, because if it's real it will be very difficult to beat it. Now, after the golden dragon was defeated, a figure who possessed the Grandmaster realm suddenly appeared. It has not been explained who the man is, but he is the caretaker of this boat. Where the man said that their guess was wrong because his secret was now the combat god. Knowing this, Ling Feng and the others were shocked and speechless. The man suddenly also offered Ling Feng an inheritance, but there was a condition that had to be met if he accepted it. But Ling Feng refused because he was cultivating in God's realm, but he didn't have the ability Ling Feng wanted. But here the man still insists and offers other things that he doesn't know yet. But the man's efforts were in vain, because what he offered turned out to be all learned by Ling Feng. Here Ling Feng, who was already getting annoyed, immediately asked to the point, "Is there any treasure of high value here?" The man only smiled there, but he would not tell it. Seeing this, Ling Feng got even more annoyed and intended to beat him up. But before hitting him, suddenly the man entered into a bead so that he could not be beaten with spiritual strength. But even so, what was done by the man earlier was just a disaster, because with this taijutsu Ling Feng managed to injure the man even though he was in the beads. As a result, because he didn't want to get hurt anymore, the man finally told him that there was a fire under the mountain. The man said that the flames were far stronger than the 4-flame fire, recalling that rumors said that within that mountain was the core ability of the 9-sin flame fire. Knowing this, Ling Feng rushed to get there. Given that he could master this ability, he would be invincible. And it turned out that when they were looking, they finally found the place, where it was seen that the core of the ability was in the middle of the mountain and around it there was hot lava. So to be able to pick up the thing was someone who could use the ability to fly. Since Ling Feng had already mastered the ability to fly, he was immediately impressed and took the core. And unexpectedly, when he touched the mana core, his soul felt like it was being burned. Even so, he will endure as hard as possible until he can master this ability. And to relieve this pain, Ling Feng passed the core to the red man and bird so that the red core would not completely burn him. After struggling for a long time to master this ability, Ling Feng finally managed to master it. After obtaining that power, Ling Feng asked the man about the history of this place. At first, the man refused to tell it, but because there was a reward in the form of absorbing the ability, finally the man accepted and was about to tell it. Where the man told me that soon the registration would start soon. The fire list itself is a competition that is attended by some of the disciples of the strongest families that exist in Holy Flame. And the winner in that test will get a rank, and the list is Fire List. And the battle is about to begin in Flame City, according to the original agreement. Because the man had told him about it, Ling Feng would display an ability so that the man could absorb and make his ability into reality. It's a shame because Ling Feng's ability had reached the highest level. Instead of absorbing the man, it burned. And because he felt that the man was good, Ling Feng would take him on an adventure. After him, Ling Feng headed to Flame City. Arriving there, he took the time to make a high-level pill, where Ling Feng combined super water and flame fire simultaneously. And it was thanks to the two opposing streams that the Earth Yin-Yang pill finally came into existence. Suddenly, an intruder saw this from behind. It turns out that the fat man is not evil, but a person named Chen Zio Feng idolizes him. So why does Chen idolize him so much? Because after seeing this, Chen just remembered that Ling Feng is the Blue King. Hearing this, Ling Feng was amazed and asked who the Blue King was. Chen explained that the Purple King was Ling Feng, where the name was because a few days before someone had the purple wings and had disrupted the three major families. And the purpose of meeting him was to tell him that the three families were plotting against him during the fire list competition. But even though he had said all that, Ling Feng did not believe it. And to believe him, Ling Feng asked Chen to go to a place and give him the pill, where the place was the pill exchange place that Ling Feng had previously gone into. As well as Chen also ordered Ling Feng to tell the director to tell the Su family to keep a low profile and stand by his side. After saying this, Chen returned home and reported it to Ling Feng. And it turned out that the pill that Ling Feng wanted was an herbal medicine and a strength-enhancing pill. However, since the pills were not needed by him, Ling Feng would give them to Chen to strengthen himself. One day later, finally the API list was open, where there have seen many students who attended the event. And there were shown a few strong. First was someone from the hidden academy called Zhu Yin. And second is Bai Yunchen from the medical school. Third was Chen Zai, the super genius girl of the Chen family, who was none other than Chen's younger sister. And lastly is Leng Rushuang from the Leng family. And the four people earlier are the most powerful young generation and are often known as the Four Kings. Seeing this, Ling Feng became even more interested and would defeat the Four Kings and become the strongest king in Holy Flame. An hour later, the gate to the fire list opened, where Ling Feng would take the path to face Leng Rushuang head-on. The panel moves to a place called Flame Ancient Avenue. There you can see that on their way Ling Feng was stopped by a group of robbers called duo robbers. It turned out that the robber claimed to be a duo of robbers. Seeing that his identity was being used by Ling Feng, and the Red Bird beat them to the punch. And as usual, they picked up some loot items from the robbers. Meanwhile, from behind suddenly someone appeared, who turned out to be Su Wuhan of the Su family. It seems here that Chen often clashes with him. It can be seen from Wu Shen, who dares to scold Chen in front of Ling Feng. But here Ling Feng would not interfere in their affairs and believed in Chen that he could defeat him. And because previously Chen drank the pill given by Ling Feng before, he could easily defeat him. And from a distance suddenly there was a monster attacking Ling Feng. But even though the monster is very strong, but this is nothing for him and managed to overthrow with just one attack. Then suddenly there was an announcement, and it was announced which ranking had the most points. It can be seen that the top position is occupied by Zhu Xin and the bottom is occupied by Ling Feng. Seeing this, it wasn't that Ling Feng was worried, instead he smiled and looked happy. And suddenly from behind, several people were rushing at Ling Feng. I don't know who that person is, but it seems they want revenge on Ling Feng, the Purple King. It didn't take long for them to launch several attacks, but even if they had superior numbers coupled with a high level of strength, it wasn't strong enough to be able to injure Ling Feng. And from the opposite direction, the Su family combined their strength to be able to kill Ling Feng. But the attack was successfully broken with item 9 stone level. With that, several members of the Su family were defeated. Seminatra was not far from Sidhu. The Kai family, who didn't want to get involved, avoided the fight. But unfortunately, before running away, Ling Feng realized and killed them all. But it's not over yet, because there are still families left who can still attack. But luckily the sudden attack was stopped by his very strong physique. But trouble will begin to appear here, where one of the strongest disciples of the Su family appears and seeks revenge. But even though the girl's strength was extremely strong and could fly, Ling Feng was still able to evade and break the sacred armor and defeat the strongest disciple of the Su family. Seeing that several unaccepting Su family disciples attacked simultaneously, but it wasn't strong enough that they were battered against Ling Feng. But it wasn't over yet, because there was still the strongest disciple of the Leng family. Here, Leng Rushuang was already preparing to duel against Ling Feng to get revenge. Without any fear, Ling Feng started to land attacks. But unexpectedly his attack was parried by Leng Rushuang. Instead, Leng Rushuang countered his attack with ease. However, in the second attack, Ling Feng managed to start him off with his golden staff. But that little wound couldn't subvert Leng Rushuang yet. And in the end, Leng Rushuang, who realized that Ling Feng was extremely strong, showed his true strength, where appeared a white aura in the form of a dragon, where it looks like this attack is very strong. But unfortunately, the story ends here because the manhwa is still ongoing. So if you are still curious about the story of Ling Feng's duel against Leng Rushuang, you have to be patient first. Later, if the manhwa has released several chapters, we will discuss them as soon as possible. Thank you and sayonara.